The attorney turned the county map so the Mercer family could see what Ruth had left them. Blue pencil boxed the farmhouse and hayfield. Green circled the orchard and guest cottage. A red line ran along the state road, enclosing the flat commercial frontage. Last came a narrow yellow shape folded behind all three, climbing into woods where the contour lines crowded together. To Owen Mercer, the attorney read, the 18.4-acre tract, commonly known as the Spring Parcel, including the former spring house and equipment shed. Travis made a sound that might have been a cough if he had not immediately covered his mouth with both hands. Owen stared at the yellow shape. He was 22. He had spent 3 years driving his grandmother to appointments, sorting her pills into a plastic box, and sleeping on her flowered sofa whenever she was too weak to be alone. 2 nights before she died, Ruth had gripped his wrist and asked whether he knew he was loved. He had said yes because she needed the answer. Now his uncle had the house. His sister had the orchard. His cousin had the only land a developer might want. Owen had been given the hill where the water had stopped running. He looked at the empty chair beside the attorney's desk and wondered whether Ruth had known exactly what she was doing. The office had once been a dentist's practice. Owen could tell from the low sink in the corner and the faded rectangle on the wall where some cheerful poster had hung for years. It smelled like burnt coffee, wet wool, and the lilies everybody had carried in from the funeral home. Eleanor Price, the attorney, removed her glasses. She had read the will in the same gentle voice she had used at Ruth's graveside, as if gentleness could make acreage equal. There are some household bequests, she said. Furniture, jewelry, personal items. Those can be handled informally if everyone agrees. We agree, Uncle Wade said. Lauren crossed one polished boot over the other. You don't know what she was going to say. I know nobody wants the china. I might. You hate the china. I hate eating off it. That's different. For 1 second, they sounded like themselves. Owen almost smiled. Then Travis leaned over the map. At 33, he was broad through the chest, with a beard trimmed so carefully it made Owen distrust the rest of his face. He tapped the yellow parcel. Does it come with a goat? Eleanor looked up. I'm sorry? To get up there. Travis, Lauren said. What? It's steep. It's 18 acres, Wade said, as though quantity were consolation. Plenty of firewood. Firewood's useful, Owen said. His voice came out flat. Everyone heard it. The room settled. Wade adjusted the knot of his black tie. It had been slipping sideways all morning, and Ruth would have reached up and fixed it without asking. Sure it is. Owen looked again at the map. The spring parcel sat behind the rest of the farm, like something pushed out of sight before company arrived. The equipment shed was marked with a tiny square. The spring house was an even smaller one. Does the spring work? Lauren asked. Wade rubbed his jaw. Travis answered for him. Hasn't since I was in high school. That's not what I asked. It doesn't run, Wade said. Not enough to count. Eleanor slid a separate sheet toward Owen. The tax amount is modest. Of course it was. You had to own something valuable before the county became interested in it. Owen folded the paper without reading the number. He could feel Lauren watching him. She was 28, 6 years older, and better at looking composed in rooms where their family embarrassed itself. Her dark hair was pinned neatly at the back of her head. Ruth used to say Lauren could make a grocery store apron look like a uniform. Grandma ever say anything to you about that property? Lauren asked. No. It was not entirely true. Ruth had said the word spring parcel once, during a confused week after pneumonia. She had asked Owen whether the gate was shut up there. He had assumed she meant the pasture gate and told her yes. She had gone back to sleep. Wade pushed himself out of his chair. Well, we can stand here measuring who got what all afternoon. Or we can go get some food in us. Your grandmother paid for enough ham to feed the county. Nobody moved. Wade's hand remained on the chair back. He looked at Owen, then at the yellow shape, and something practical came into his face. If you don't want to fool with it, I'll buy it. Lauren closed her eyes briefly. What? Wade said. I'm trying to help. How much? Travis asked. Nobody asked you. I'm curious what a goat costs. $8,000, Wade said to Owen. Cash. The transmission shop owed Owen $940 in final wages. His landlord wanted the apartment empty by Friday. His truck's fuel gauge had been resting below E for 2 days because the needle liked to offer bad news gradually. $8,000 landed in his mind already divided. Rent somewhere cheap. A rebuilt transmission if his own started slipping. Groceries that did not come in dented cans from Ruth's pantry. Wade must have seen the arithmetic pass through his face. "You're young," Wade said. "Land ties you down. Especially land like that. Land like that." Owen looked toward the empty chair again. He could picture Ruth sitting there, with her purse hugged against her stomach, listening while everyone explained what was best for him. "I'll think about it. That's all I'm saying." "No," Lauren said. "You're offering him $8,000 in the same room where he just found out he owns it." Wade's face reddened around the collar. "And when would be less offensive, Lauren? Tomorrow? Should I send flowers with the offer?" "We already have too many flowers," Travis said. Eleanor Price put both palms on her desk. "I believe we can conclude for today." Outside, March rain ticked against the courthouse awning. The four Mercers stood beneath it while Eleanor locked the office behind them. Across the street, people were entering the diner in work jackets, shaking water from their shoulders, living a regular Thursday. Travis opened his umbrella. "If the goat's included, I want first refusal." Owen stepped close enough that Travis's grin changed shape. "Say it again. Easy." Travis lifted one hand. "It was a joke. You've used it 3 times. That makes it a hobby." Wade moved between them, though Owen had not raised his fists. "Everybody's tired." "I'm not tired," Owen said. That was a lie, too. He had been tired since November. Lauren touched his sleeve. He pulled away before he could decide whether he meant to. The family lunch was held at Ruth's farmhouse, where every flat surface had acquired a foil tray. Ham, green beans, macaroni, 3 kinds of potatoes. The women from Ruth's church had labeled everything in blue painter's tape, including a bowl that said ice, as if grief had made the Mercers too stupid to recognize frozen water. People told Owen what a blessing he had been to Ruth. They said it while handing Wade questions about the furnace and asking Lauren what she planned to do with the cottage. Travis stood at the kitchen window, describing traffic counts on the state road to a man from the feed store. Owen carried empty plates to the trash and tried not to hear the land being converted into futures all around him. In the hall, Ruth's walker still leaned beneath the coat hooks. Somebody had draped her gardening hat over one handle. Owen stopped so suddenly that a paper plate slid from the stack in his hands. For 3 years, he had hated that walker, hated wrestling it into his truck, hated the squeak in the left wheel, hated the way strangers addressed him instead of Ruth when they saw it. Now, he put his thumb against the worn foam grip. Behind him, Lauren said, "They haven't moved anything yet." He bent to retrieve the plate. "I can see that. I told Wade to wait." "Good for you." Owen, he carried the plates into the kitchen. Lauren followed, shutting the swinging door against the low hum of guests. She took the stack from him and set it beside the trash can. "Don't let Travis make you stupid. He doesn't have that kind of power. You almost hit him under a courthouse awning. I almost stood near him. You have an aggressive way of standing." Despite himself, Owen gave a short laugh. Lauren smiled, relieved too soon. She lowered her voice. "Wade's offer isn't terrible." There it was. Owen reached for the plates again. "I'm not saying take 8, she continued. "I'm saying think. You don't have to keep something useless because Grandma gave it to you. Useless. You know what I mean?" "Yeah. Apparently everybody does." Lauren leaned against the counter. "The cottage needs work. The orchard hasn't been pruned properly in years. This isn't like she handed the rest of us sacks of money. No. Wade got the house you're standing in. Travis got road frontage. You got a cottage with plumbing. I got a shed behind a dead spring." Her expression tightened. "I didn't write the will, I know. Then don't punish me for it." He looked at her. Lauren had cried at the funeral without making a sound. She had also left their grandmother's care mostly to him, calling every Sunday from Nashville with useful suggestions and apologies that became less specific as the years passed. "I'm not punishing you," he said. "You're doing that thing where you answer with 5 words and make everyone feel like a slammed door. I learned from Dad." The instant he said it, both of them looked toward the kitchen window. Their father had been dead 6 years, but his name could still clear a room. Lauren picked at a corner of blue tape on the macaroni tray. "Grandma probably thought you'd sell it." Owen said nothing. "She knew you needed a start," Lauren said. "Maybe this was her way of giving you one. By giving me what Wade wants for $8,000, it's more than you had yesterday." He watched her worry the tape loose, press it down, then peel it up again. 2 nights before Ruth died, Lauren had called and said she could come Saturday. Ruth died Friday morning, with Owen asleep in a vinyl chair beside her. He had not told Lauren that part. He had told her Ruth went peacefully, because that was what families paid the person in the room to say. He opened the swinging door. "Owen, I need air. It's raining." "Then I need rain." He left through the mudroom and crossed the back porch. Wade called after him, asking if he wanted ham wrap to take home. Owen pretended not to hear. His truck sat at the edge of the gravel drive, the oldest vehicle among a row of clean SUVs. The rain had thinned to mist. Instead of getting in, he walked past it. Beyond the barn, two muddy tracks entered the hayfield. One curved toward the guest cottage. The other climbed behind the pasture and disappeared between bare trees. Owen had not been up that way in years. He slipped twice before reaching the old gate. It sagged open, one hinge pulled loose from its post. Beyond it, the track narrowed under wet leaves. Briars grabbed his trousers. Water ran in shallow brown ribbons between stones, taking the easiest route downhill. He climbed until the farmhouse roof disappeared. The equipment shed emerged first, listing among the trees. One door hung crooked. Its metal roof was orange with rust, patched in places by flattened feed signs. Farther uphill stood the spring house, a low ruin of mossy stone, with no gate and half its roof caved in. Owen walked to it, breath smoking in the damp air. Inside lay leaves, broken branches, and a green glass bottle furred with dirt. The stone basin was empty. He crouched and pressed his hand against the bottom. Cold mud darkened his palm, but there was no water. 18 acres and a roomer. Rain tapped the remaining roof slates. Somewhere below, a door slammed at the farmhouse, followed by Travis's distant laugh. Owen sat on the springhouse threshold until his suit trousers soaked through at the knees. Then, beneath the rain and the branches and the noise of his own breathing, he heard a faint trickling under the stones. When he held still, it stopped, or seemed to. Owen lowered his ear toward the basin. A drop struck stone somewhere in the dark beneath it, then another. He dug 2 fingers into the mud until they met something hard and flat. The stone was colder than the air, fitted tightly against the next one. When he scraped away a mat of black leaves, a thin seam appeared between them, shining for a moment before the mud clouded over it. Working already? Wade stood outside the spring house with his hands in his coat pockets. He had changed out of his suit jacket, but still wore the crooked tie. The climb had put color in his cheeks. Owen wiped his fingers on wet leaves, looking. At what? The basin. Wade ducked under the low opening. His eyes moved across the collapsed roof and the branch lying diagonally through it. "Your dad and I used to keep soda bottles in here," he said. "July, you could put one in the trough at breakfast and it'd hurt your teeth by lunch." Owen waited. Wade was not a man who wandered into memories without wanting something from them. "Roof's worse than I thought," Wade continued. "So's the gate. I saw that. You asked me to check it once. Did I? Not you." "Grandma." Wade nudged the green bottle with the toe of his dress shoe. It rolled a few inches and stopped in the muck. She worried about things after she got sick. She worried before. Well, that's true. A gust sent rain through the broken roof. Wade stepped back under the intact section where Owen was standing, making the little structure feel crowded. 8,000 was an opening number, he said. "Lunch is still going, I'm aware. You left your own mother's funeral lunch to negotiate." Wade's mouth moved in a way that was almost a smile. "Your grandmother would respect efficiency. She'd call you a buzzard. She called me worse with affection." Owen climbed out. The hill pitched sharply below, wet gray trunks descending toward a glimpse of pasture. The track was barely a track at all. Grass had rooted in its center, and runoff had bitten channels through both tire ruts. Wade came out behind him. "I'm not cheating you. I didn't say you were. You've got that look." "What look?" "The one your father got when he decided every person in the world had joined a private club against him." Owen turned. Wade looked downhill rather than at him. "I'm saying land isn't just what somebody claims it's worth. You need access, upkeep, insurance if you're going to do anything. That sheds one good sneeze from falling over. Then why buy it? Because it attaches to mine." It was the first clean thing Wade had said all day. Owen nodded. "That makes sense. I'm glad one of us thinks so. The offer makes sense. The price doesn't." Wade snorted. "Maybe you did learn something changing transmissions. The ones people ruin are usually the ones who think they know how to drive." That earned him a real glance. For several seconds they stood with rain ticking on dead leaves. Wade looked older away from the farmhouse. Not weak exactly. Unfinished. His mother had been buried 5 hours earlier, and the wet had exposed the silver in his hair. "Take a few days," Wade said, "but don't start hauling things up here before we settle it." "Settle what?" "The farm road crosses my field. It's the road to this parcel. It's a farm track, Owen. I'm not saying you can't use it today. I'm saying I don't want trucks chewing it up or strangers coming through until we know what you're doing. I don't know what I'm doing." "Exactly." Wade walked downhill, testing each step before putting his weight on it. At the gate, he caught the post to keep from slipping, looked back to see if Owen had noticed, and found Owen watching. Neither mentioned it. By the time Owen returned to the farmhouse, half the food had been packed away, and all the useful grief had gone home. Only family remained. Travis was carrying 2 lamps to his truck. Lauren stood in Ruth's bedroom folding sweaters into a cardboard box. "She wanted June Bell to have these," Lauren said. "They're written on the list by the dresser." Owen picked up the handwritten page. Ruth's letters leaned forward as if they were walking into wind. June, blue sweaters, heating pad. Church, good coats. Lauren, sewing basket, pearl earrings. Owen, tools, brown quilt, kitchen radio. No explanation accompanied any of it. He had been hoping for one, without admitting it. The kitchen radio was an ugly beige box with grease in its speaker holes. Ruth had listened to weather reports on it while making biscuits, then shouted the forecast through the house as though weather were a decision the family needed to vote on. Lauren watched him read. "The tools are probably worth something. Everything has to be worth something with you people today." She folded a green sweater too sharply. "I'm trying to find the part that doesn't hurt your feelings." "Good luck. You want to keep Grandma's teaspoons? Keep the teaspoons. You want the cracked bird bath? Take it. Nobody's fighting you." "Generous." She dropped the sweater into the box. "You know, I loved her too." The words landed more heavily than her anger had. Owen set down the list. "I know." "Do you?" He did, but love had begun to feel measurable over the last 3 years. Miles driven, meals cooked, nights interrupted. He knew that was unfair. He also knew unfair things could remain true inside a person long after being identified. Lauren sat on the edge of the bed. Ruth's mattress gave its familiar tired squeak. "I should have come more," she said. Owen looked at the empty hangers in the closet. "I kept thinking I'd get through one more busy month," she continued. "Then I'd have room to be helpful in a big way." "She liked your calls?" "That sounds like something you say when the dead person complained about my calls." "She did complain. Then she watched the clock on Sundays." Lauren laughed once and covered her mouth. Her eyes filled immediately, which seemed to irritate her. Owen handed her a tissue from Ruth's nightstand. "Thank you," she said. "That's very nursing home orderly of you. I developed a professional manner. You told the cardiologist he had the listening skills of a decorative gourd." He asked her the same question 4 times. Lauren wiped beneath her eyes. "Take the 8,000 if you need it. Don't take it if you don't. Just don't stay mad at Grandma because Wade is Wade." "I'm not mad at her. You hiked up a hill in funeral clothes. I needed air. It was sleeting 10 minutes ago." The air was thorough. She smiled, but he did not. He picked up the brown quilt from the foot of the bed and carried it downstairs with the radio tucked beneath his arm. On Friday, Denny gave him $700 and an apology in the empty transmission shop. The lifts stood vacant. Pale rectangles marked the walls where tool cabinets had been. Somebody had already removed the soda machine, leaving 4 black dents in the floor. "I'm going to get you the rest," Denny said. Owen counted the bills twice. "When?" "When I sell the diagnostic computer." "You said that was leased." Denny looked offended that Owen remembered. "The tire machine, then." "That belongs to Ray." "Hell, Owen, I don't know. I'll find it." Denny had hired him at 19, taught him to rebuild a valve body, and once driven 40 miles at midnight when Owen's truck broke down. He had also known for 2 months that the shop was dying and had told everybody things would turn around. Owen folded the money into his wallet. "I've got to be out of my place today." "I know. You knew last week, too." Denny sat on a red bucket, his shoulders rounded. "I know." Owen wanted to stay angry, but there was something undignified about Denny sitting in the stripped shop, still wearing a shirt with Mercer transmission embroidered over the pocket, even though he was not a Mercer, and there was no transmission shop anymore. "Building supply on Route 9 is hiring nights," Denny said. "I talked to Cal." "You talked to him about me? I figured you'd rather be mad with a job." "That depends on the job. Stocking, loading. They need somebody who can tell a carriage bolt from a lag screw. I contain multitudes. Denny reached into his pocket and tossed Owen a ring with 2 keys. Side cabinets. You can have what's left. There was not much: mismatched sockets, a pry bar, 3 screwdrivers, a dented metal toolbox, and a corded drill, old enough to have opinions about electricity. Owen packed them beside Ruth's tools in his truck. His apartment took 23 minutes to empty. A duffel bag of clothes, 2 boxes of dishes and books, a mattress that had come furnished and therefore stayed. The landlord inspected the rooms while Owen carried things down, then deducted a cleaning fee from the deposit because of dust on the refrigerator coils. Everybody gets charged that, she said. Then just call it a fee for leaving. She did not appreciate the suggestion. By 4 o'clock, his belongings were in the truck and rain had started again. Owen sat behind the wheel outside a gas station, holding his phone, while the fuel pump stopped at $20. The cheapest motel wanted $64 a night. Lauren had texted twice. You can stay at my place here until I go back. Then, I promise not to discuss real estate before coffee. The guest cottage belonged to her now. Taking shelter there would put him 1 thin wall away from Ruth's house and 1 favor away from hearing how the spring parcel was unsuitable for him. Owen called Wade. I need to use the shed for a while. Silence traveled down the line. As in store things? Wade asked. As in stay there. That shed doesn't have power, I noticed, or water. I noticed that too. There are raccoons with a better housing plan. Is that a no? Wade exhaled. In the background, cabinet doors opened and shut. Use the track when it's dry. If it's soft, park by the gate and walk. Don't bring anybody else through. And temporary means temporary. Understood. You could stay at the house. The offer came so reluctantly that Owen believed he meant it. No, Owen said. All right, thanks. Don't thank me like I've done something. You own the miserable thing. At the gate, Owen unloaded in the rain because the track was already soft. He carried every box uphill, then the duffel, the quilt, the radio, Ruth's toolbox, and Denny's dented one. On his last trip, darkness overtook him beneath the trees. The shed door protested but opened. Inside, a rusted stove leaned in one corner. A narrow workbench ran beneath a window filmed with dirt. The roof leaked into 3 old buckets and one place where no bucket had been placed. Owen spread the brown quilt over his coat on the driest section of floor. He ate crackers from the gas station and listened to rain drum, the feed sign patches overhead. Sometime after midnight, he woke cold enough that his teeth hurt. Beneath the roof noise came another sound, softer and steadier, water moving downhill. He found his flashlight and went outside barefoot, before remembering the ground was mud. The beam shook across wet leaves, bare roots, and a strip of ferns bending under the rain. The ferns formed a line, not down the rut where the surface water ran, but across it, toward the ruined spring house. Owen stood in the dark with mud between his toes until the cold drove him back inside. By dawn, the cold had climbed into Owen's jaw. He sat up beneath the brown quilt and watched his breath drift through the flashlight beam. One of the buckets had filled overnight and begun overflowing, spreading a dark fan across the floor. The crackers he had left on the workbench were gone. Their wrapper lay under the stove, with one corner chewed open. Excellent, he told the shed. Breakfast is popular. The rusted stove held an old bird's nest and enough damp ash to make a black paste. Owen removed both, then went outside to inspect the chimney. The pipe ended below a branch that had grown across it. Half the cap was missing. He added heat to a list that already included roof, door, water, floor, light, food storage, and not dying. His phone showed a voicemail from Cal Brewer at the building supply warehouse. Night stock started Monday if Owen could pass a drug test and arrive in steel-toed boots. Owen owned the boots. It felt like the first question anyone had asked all week to which he possessed the entire answer. He changed behind the truck, using the open door as partial cover from an audience of trees. His cleanest jeans acquired mud at both cuffs before he reached the gate. Wade's pickup was parked beside Owen's. Wade stood with one boot on the sagging gate, studying the ruts Owen had left the day before. They were shallow, but visible. You drove up. Yesterday afternoon. I said if it was soft, park here. I unloaded before the rain got bad. It was soft. Owen opened his truck. Good morning. It doesn't seem complicated. It wasn't. I drove up, drove back, then walked. That isn't the arrangement. You used the word temporary. You didn't give me a handbook. Wade's gaze traveled over Owen's muddy jeans, then upward toward the trees. You really slept there. I'm doing an immersive inspection. That's not a dwelling. Then nobody can accuse me of settling in. Wade pulled at the loose gate hinge. I have cattle coming onto the lower field in May. This has to latch. I'll fix it. It's my gate. It's the gate on the road I use. And it's on my field. Then we'll both enjoy it. Wade's lips compressed. He seemed prepared to argue, but Owen took Ruth's box of blue sweaters from behind the truck seat. Do you know if June's home? Where else would she be? She had her knee replaced. When? 3 weeks ago. Ruth knew. Owen had missed it. The last month of Ruth's life had compressed the rest of the world into vague reports received beside hospital beds. Wade lifted the gate while Owen set the hinge back against the post. The wood around the bolts had rotted soft. It would not hold a new screw. Needs a brace, Owen said. I know what it needs. Then why'd you ask the gate? Wade let it drop. 8,000 still stands. Owen put the sweaters on the passenger seat and drove away. June Bell lived less than a mile down the state road, in a white house with blue shutters and wind chimes made from old silverware. A hand-painted sign beside the drive offered eggs, herbs, and alterations, though the first word had been crossed out. Owen knocked. After a moment, the door opened on a woman he had never met. She wore black trousers, wool socks, and a faded t-shirt from a Nashville restaurant called St. Martha. Her dark hair had been twisted on top of her head and secured with a yellow pencil. She looked at Owen, the mud on him, and the box in his hands. We're not buying anything. I'm not selling sweaters. Good. Terrible business model. Ruth Mercer left them to June. The humor left her face. You're Owen. He did not ask how she knew. She stepped aside. I'm Marisol, June's niece. The house smelled like coffee and the menthol rub Ruth used on her knees. June sat in a recliner with one leg raised, a blue ice wrap around it, and a paperback face down on her chest. Her white hair stood up in the back. If that box contains a casserole, she said, take it directly to hell. Sweaters, Owen said. Those can stay. Marisol carried the box to the sofa. June picked up the first sweater, rubbed the sleeve between her fingers, then pressed it briefly to her face. Owen looked toward the window. Ruth said you were living with her, June said. I wasn't living there. You slept there 4 nights a week and kept socks in the hall closet. She complained about my socks? She complained they were black and impossible to match. That was my system. Chaos isn't a system. Marisol put a mug in front of him. Sit down before you distribute mud more evenly. I can't stay. Then stand over the mat. He stayed on the mat. June lowered the sweater to her lap. I heard about the will. Wade broadcasts fast. Travis does. Wade broods until somebody asks. She studied him. You went up there? Last night. Marisol glanced at his clothes again. Up where? The spring parcel, June said. Ruth's back hill, the one without a road. It has a road, Owen said. June and Marisol exchanged a look. What? He asked. Nothing, June said. How's the spring house? Falling in. I could have told you that from here. Then tell me why the ground's wet. June's attention sharpened. There are ferns above the shed, Owen continued. In a line. I heard water under the basin yesterday, but it was raining. It always spoke loudest in wet weather. Spoke? That's what your grandfather called it. Water moved through the rock before it came into the house. You could hear it in winter when the weeds were down. Wade said it stopped. It stopped coming out where people wanted it. Marisol pulled out a chair. That sounds designed to be mysterious. It means water doesn't disappear because a Mercer gets tired of maintaining something. Owen looked at June. What happened? She rubbed her thumb over a loose thread in the sweater cuff. Logging tore up the hill. Drainage shifted. The spring got cloudy, then unreliable. Your grandmother boiled water for a while. Then they put in the well. When was that? 15 years, maybe more. He had been old enough to remember if anyone had thought it worth explaining. What he remembered was the stone trough beside the road, holding leaves and cigarette butts. Did anybody try to repair it? Your father did some digging. Wade filled some digging back in. They had different theories and identical tempers. Did Grandma? Ruth maintained what she could. That isn't an answer. It's the one I have before coffee. Marisol handed June a mug. You've had 2. Then it's the one I have after coffee. Owen set his untouched mug on the small table. June caught his sleeve as he turned. Her hand was surprisingly strong. Don't go tearing into that bank because you heard a trickle, she said. Wet ground can slide, so can rock. Your grandmother didn't leave you spare bones. He looked down at her fingers on his arm. She leave me the parcel because she thought the spring could come back? June released him. Ruth never told me why she divided anything the way she did. Did she talk about the land? Everybody around here talks about land, usually when they should be apologizing. That was all she would give him. Marisol followed Owen onto the porch. Wind stirred the silverware chimes into a bright, uneven clatter. She'll remember more after she's decided whether you want the truth or permission, Marisol said. What's the difference? Truth can tell you to stop. I didn't ask permission? Then you're doing great already. He descended the steps. Hey, she called. You forgot the coffee? I didn't forget it. You don't drink coffee? I drink coffee that doesn't make threats. When Owen returned to the parcel, Lauren's SUV stood by the gate. She was halfway up the track carrying a plastic bin against her chest, her boots sinking into the mud. You own practical shoes, he called. She stopped to catch her breath. I contain multitudes. He took the bin from her. It held a camp stove, 2 fuel canisters, batteries, a lantern, a smoke detector, a carbon monoxide detector, and 4 cans of soup. You bring fire safety equipment to all grieving relatives, only the ones determined to become cautionary tales. I'm not using the stove yet. Good, because the chimney looks like a tetanus exhibit. He carried the bin into the shed. Lauren stayed in the doorway. The interior seemed to silence her more effectively than their arguments had. You slept on the floor? There's plenty of it. You could stay in the cottage. You said that. I'm saying it again now that I've seen this. He set the lantern on the workbench. You planning to live there? Eventually, maybe part-time. I have to go back to Nashville Monday and sort things out. So it's yours, but you don't need it yet. Her shoulders stiffened. That's cheap. Wasn't supposed to be expensive. She stepped over the bucket, catching the fastest leak. I'm offering you a dry room, next to Wade. Wade offered you the house, so everybody can watch how long I stay, what I eat, whether I'm looking for work, whether I've taken $8,000 yet. Lauren rubbed rain from her forehead. You got a job? Start Monday night. Her face opened with uncomplicated relief. That irritated him too, though he knew it should not have. Where? Brewers. That's good. It's stocking lumber, not a Senate confirmation. I'm allowed to say something is good. He looked at the supplies she had brought. The stove is good. The soup? 3 out of 4. She smiled faintly. The split pea was a risk. They spent the afternoon making the shed less determined to reject him. Lauren swept mouse droppings while Owen patched the worst roof gaps with pieces of an old advertising sign he found behind the stove. She discovered a nest inside a drawer and screamed hard enough to startle a crow from the roof. It moved, she said. It's made of grass. Grass can contain multitudes. When the rain eased, Owen showed her the line of ferns. They climbed slowly, following the green strip through dead leaves. It crossed the logging rut at an angle and ended below a mound of packed earth and stones. Lauren pressed her heel into the ground. Water gleamed around the edge of her boot. That could just be drainage, she said. It is drainage. The question is from where? June know? She said the water stopped coming out where people wanted it. That sounds like June. Owen crouched and pulled away loose leaves. Beneath them, the soil was nearly black. He used Denny's pry bar to lift a stone no larger than a dinner plate. Water immediately gathered in the shallow impression. Not a rush, not even a trickle. Just a clear, steady shining where the stone had been. Lauren knelt beside him. Neither spoke for several seconds. Then she said, "Don't tell Wade." Owen turned to her. She was still watching the water. "He'll think you found a reason not to sell," she said. "I did." Lauren's face changed, but he could not tell whether it was worry or something closer to recognition. "You can stop worrying," Owen said. "I wasn't planning to invite him up for a ribbon cutting." Lauren sat back on her heels. "I'm not worried about Wade. Then you've changed since lunch. I'm worried you'll turn this into a contest. It was water 5 seconds ago. With you and Wade, everything becomes a contest. Who's more stubborn? Who cared more about Grandma? Who can be the last person to ask for help? Wade didn't care for her. He was her son. He owned a house 10 minutes away and visited when the weather was pleasant. Lauren stood too quickly and slipped. Owen caught her elbow before her knee hit the mud. She pulled free as soon as she had her balance. "Thank you." "You're welcome. See? We can do it." "Do what?" "Speak like people." He replaced the flat stone, but did not press it down. Water continued to shine around its edge. Lauren watched him wipe the pry bar. What are you going to do? Find where it goes. And if it goes nowhere, then I'll know where nowhere is. That sounds like Dad. Everybody keeps saying that like it ends the conversation. It usually did with him. Owen lifted the pry bar onto his shoulder and headed toward the shed. Lauren followed, picking mud from one boot with a twig. At the gate, she hesitated beside her SUV. If you decide to sell, she said, get your own price. Don't just take Wade's. I'm not selling. You've owned it for 2 days. That's long enough to reject $8,000. Not long enough to build your life around wet dirt. He folded his arms over the gate. Lauren opened her door. I'm trying to be on your side. Try when Wade's in the room. She got into the SUV and shut the door harder than necessary. Owen repaired the gate alone. The post was too rotten to hold a bolt, so he cut a steel strap from a discarded bracket and wrapped it around the soundwood below the hinge. It was ugly and temporary. It latched. Wade tested it that evening by opening and closing it 3 times. You didn't have to use steel, he said. You're right. I could have carved a new post with my teeth. Wood brace would have been cleaner. Bring one. Wade looked toward the hill. Lauren said you found water. Of course she had. I found wet ground. She said it pooled. It rained for 2 days. You tell her not to tell me? I didn't tell her anything. That answer seemed to bother Wade more than a lie would have. He placed one hand on the repaired gate. I'm going to give you advice you don't want. Could you put it in writing so I cannot read it later? Water on that hill has caused more trouble than it ever solved. Then why do you care what I do with it? Because the hill drains onto the rest of us. Owen leaned against the truck. Now it's us. It's always us when something runs downhill. Wade glanced at the gate repair again, lifted the latch, and drove through without discussing the purchase offer. At Brewer's Building Supply, Owen learned that lumber grew heavier after midnight. The warehouse extended behind the bright retail store in a series of concrete bays that trapped cold air and forklift exhaust. Cal Brewer gave him a reflective vest, a scanner, and a tour conducted at a pace meant to punish questions. Dimensional lumber there, treated outside, fasteners aisles 6 through 9, roofing west wall. If you move inventory without scanning it, I assume theft or stupidity. Which one depends on whether I like you. Do you? Not yet. Cal was a narrow man in his 50s with white hair clipped almost to his scalp. Denny had described him as fair, which in Denny's language meant Cal paid the amount promised and expected gratitude only on major holidays. Owen spent his first shift unloading cement board with a woman named Nita, who had worked nights for 11 years and could reverse a forklift through a doorway with an inch to spare. You're the transmission boy, she said, formerly. Denny still owe everybody money, far as I know. He owes me $40 from a poker game in 2009. That may not be related to the business closing. Debt reveals character. At 2 in the morning, she caught Owen looking at rolls of roofing underlayment. Got a leak? Got a roof that's mostly leak. Buy the synthetic. Felt tears when you drag it. I'm not buying anything tonight. Then put buckets down and stop looking romantic. He was too tired to ask what romantic roofing looked like. The job ended at 6. Owen drove uphill while morning fog lay flat over the pasture. Wade's kitchen light was on. Someone stood at the window, but Owen did not slow enough to see who. He slept until noon, woke cold, ate split-pea soup directly from the can, and began clearing around the spring house. That became the shape of his days. Work all night. Drive home while other people warmed their cars. Sleep badly. Wake with an ache behind his eyes. Spend 2 or 3 hours moving brush, cleaning stone, or making the shed less permeable. Wash in the employee restroom before his shift with paper towels and industrial soap that left his face smelling like oranges. He told no one at Brewer's where he was living. By the 4th night, Nita knew anyway. You have leaf pieces in your hair? Fashion? You're sleeping outside. Inside a structure. Does the structure know? He scanned a bundle of cedar boards. We're negotiating. She tossed him a thermos. Keep it until morning. The coffee inside was sweet enough to repair morale and possibly damage organs. With his first paycheck, Owen bought roofing underlayment, screws, a chimney cap, 2 sheets of plywood, and a used folding cot, advertised on the break room bulletin board. The total left him $27 until the next Friday. Cal saw the employee discount receipt. You planning to eat the plywood? Hay fiber. The company won't advance wages. I didn't ask. You had the face of somebody about to. This is just my face. Cal considered that. Unfortunate. Owen strapped the materials to his truck and prayed the fuel light was pessimistic. At the gate, a silver sedan he did not recognize was parked behind his truck. Marisol sat on the hood with a restaurant takeout container beside her. She wore a dark coat and the same yellow pencil in her hair. How did you find me? June told me to turn where the gate looked recently bullied. She sent you? No. She mentioned you were living in a shed, and I wanted to see whether that was exaggeration. Disappointed? Deeply. From here it looks like woods. He lifted the plywood. You could help preserve the mystery. Marisol took the lighter sheet before he could object. This is a bad first date. It isn't a date. Then it's just unpaid labor, which is worse. They carried the materials uphill. Owen's arms shook by the time they reached the shed, though he kept his side level. Marisol set down the plywood and looked inside. Her gaze moved from the cot to the lantern, the camp stove, and Ruth's beige radio on the workbench. You have electricity? No. So, the radio is decorative. It's waiting. For the grid, for me to fix the battery contacts. She opened the takeout container. Inside were roasted chicken, potatoes, and green beans. Restaurant mistake, she said. They made an extra. Restaurants accidentally arrange food in 2 separate portions. All the time. He had not eaten anything that required a fork since the funeral. He took the container. Thank you. That sounded painful. It was the sincerity. While he ate, she walked uphill to the spring house. Owen followed with the last potato still in his mouth. He had cleared thorn vines from the entrance and lifted the fallen branch off the basin. Without the brush, the damage looked more deliberate. One section of wall had bowed inward. The roof beam was split. Mud filled the basin almost to its rim. Marisol put one hand against the stonework. You did all this after night shifts? Most of it was cutting. You say that as if cutting things requires no effort. Depends what you're cutting. She looked up the fern line. Where's the water? Underground. Convenient. He showed her the flat stone Lauren had lifted. The shallow impression beneath it was damp, but no longer pooled. It dried, Marisol said. Surface dried. Different invisible water. Owen drove the pry bar into the soil a foot higher. It sank farther than he expected. Marisol's expression changed. June said not to dig into the bank. I'm testing it. She specifically described wet ground sliding. She also described the spring talking. June enjoys danger if it happened before 1985. Owen pulled the bar free. The hole slowly filled with cloudy water. Marisol crouched but kept back from the edge. All right, that is water. Thank you for the independent verification. It doesn't mean you should chase it with a shovel. How else would you find it? You could ask somebody who knows what they're doing. Who? I don't know. A spring person. A spring person. I manage a restaurant. When water comes out where it shouldn't, I call a plumber. This isn't plumbing. Then you're already the regional expert. She stood and brushed soil from her knee. June told me your grandmother worried about this hill. June seems to tell you more than she tells me. She raised me for 5 years. I have seniority. Owen waited for an explanation. None came. Marisol walked back toward the shed. That bank is holding up trees, rocks, and however many years of bad decisions your family packed into it. Don't stand under it and start pulling. He followed, irritated because the warning made sense. At the shed, she examined the chimney pipe. This was full of a nest yesterday, he said. Congratulations, I cleaned it. Did you inspect the flue? I looked through it. With what? My eyes. Those are not certified. Are yours? No. Mine are restaurant management eyes. They can detect an improperly labeled container from 30 feet. He took the chimney cap from the truck bed. I'll light a small fire outside first and check the draw. She seemed surprised by the answer. What? He asked. Nothing. I expected you to say smoke respects confidence. Only cigarette smoke. Wood smoke is cautious. She smiled despite herself. After she left, Owen climbed onto the shed roof and worked until dusk. The underlayment covered only the worst half, but rain was forecast, and half had become a meaningful measurement. His phone rang while he was fastening the chimney cap. Where are you? Denny asked. On a roof. Whose? Mine. A pause. You bought a house? No. That cleared up nothing. Denny had sold the tire machine, though it belonged to Ray, who had apparently agreed to split the proceeds. Owen's remaining wages would be ready Saturday. The news should have brought relief. Instead, Owen thought of the $27 in his wallet and had to sit down on the roof. "You all right?" Denny asked. "Yeah." "You don't sound yeah." "Long week. Come by Saturday." After the call, Owen remained beside the chimney until cold came through his jeans. Below him, the spring parcel sloped away in bruised evening light. The farmhouse windows glowed beyond bare branches. Travis's road frontage was hidden from here. Lauren's cottage roof showed between orchard trees. They had all inherited one body and were pretending the pieces did not touch. A low groan came from uphill. Owen turned toward the spring house. Soil shifted beside the hole he had made with the pry bar. A clump of earth sagged, then dropped inward with a wet slap. 2 stones rolled free and settled against a root. He climbed down and approached carefully. Behind the fallen soil was not open ground, but a narrow row of fitted rocks, black with moisture, running sideways through the bank. An old channel. Owen shone his flashlight along it. Water trembled between the stones, carrying a thread of brown silt toward the logging rut. He did not dig. He crouched there until darkness erased everything outside the beam, listening to the faint movement beneath the hill. The channel disappeared beneath a web of roots at one end and under packed soil at the other. Owen photographed it from 3 angles, then placed the fallen stones back against the exposed section without fitting them tightly. He wanted to see whether the water would continue overnight. It did. By morning, a dark line crossed the logging rut and ended in a shallow puddle below it. The spring house basin remained empty. Owen poured the puddle into an old jar and held it toward the light. The water was clear until he shook it. Then a cloud of fine clay rose from the bottom. He drove the jar to June's house after work. Marisol opened the door wearing a navy blouse and carrying one high-heeled shoe. Her other foot was bare. "Is that drinking water?" she asked. "Not unless you're adventurous. You look terrible." "Good morning. It's 2 in the afternoon. That's morning for people who keep your restaurant supplied with deck screws. My restaurant has never ordered a deck screw. Then you're welcome." She led him inside. June was asleep in the recliner with a knitted blanket over her knees. The television showed a woman silently selling jewelry. Owen set the jar on the kitchen table and took out his phone. Marisol leaned close to study the photographs. She smelled like soap and onions. That's the thing that collapsed? Moved, not collapsed. A reassuring distinction. It's stonework. 2 rows, maybe a channel or drain. Why is it underground? Because that's where they put it. She looked sideways at him. "You've been awake how long?" "Long enough to appreciate useful questions." June spoke without opening her eyes. "It's the old run." Marisol turned down the television. June blinked at the pictures, refused help getting out of the recliner, then accepted it after failing twice. "Let me see," she said. Owen enlarged the clearest photograph. June adjusted her glasses and traced the row of wet stones on the screen. "That carried overflow toward the spring house," she said. Or it was supposed to. There was clay pipe in places, rock in others. From where? A collection bed higher up. Where? If I knew exactly, I'd draw you a flag. What did it look like? Ground. Marisol put on her missing shoe. "I'm leaving you 2 scientists together." "You're working this early?" June asked. "I have a vendor meeting, then inventory. Bring back butter. We have butter. Bring back better butter." The door closed behind her. June waited until Marisol's car started before tapping the jar. "Don't drink that. I wasn't planning to. Your grandfather built the run with his father. They opened the seep, laid stones so mud wouldn't choke it, and carried it down to the basin. In dry weather, water collected slowly. In wet weather, it flowed straight through and filled the trough. What happened to the pipe? Machines happened. Logging? June nodded. The rut you keep mentioning wasn't a rut then. It was where they pulled trunks down. Heavy rain came after. Your father said they'd opened the hill too fast. Wade said the spring was already failing. Who was right? Both, which made them angrier. Owen sat across from her. Why were they logging? June picked lint from the blanket. Money, that covers most bad ideas. The farm had a bad year. Your father had debts. Wade had plans. Ruth had opinions and was outvoted until everything went poorly, at which point they treated her like a prophet. Did Dad try to fix it? He opened a trench along the run. Wade filled it after the bank slipped. Why? Because it was raining and your father had gone home mad. Somebody had to keep the hill uphill. Owen slid the jar toward the center of the table. You said Grandma maintained what she could. She cleared the lower channels, put gravel around the basin. After your grandfather died, she mostly stopped. That was 10 years ago. Grief makes a decade feel practical. He looked down at the photograph. Could it run again? June was silent long enough to be honest. Water is still there, she said. That doesn't mean it wants the old route. It doesn't want anything. Then you two should understand each other. She reached for the legal pad beside her chair and drew a rough curve of the hill. Her hand shook slightly. The logging track cut across it. The old run angled toward the spring house from somewhere above. Don't open a deep trench, she said. Take surface water away first. Your grandfather kept shallow ditches on both sides. Little enough to cross with a boot. They're probably full of leaves. Were you up there a lot? Everybody was. Before the well, the bells had a line from the trough. Ruth helped my mother wash clothes when our pump broke. Wade never mentioned other people using it. Wade thinks history is whatever embarrassed him least. On Saturday, Denny gave Owen $240 in a white envelope. Count it, he said. Owen counted. They stood outside the shuttered shop. A for lease sign hung crooked in the window. Denny had shaved but missed a strip along his jaw. I'm selling my place, Denny said. The house, motorcycle. You don't ride it? Which makes selling easier. You don't owe me motorcycle money. I owe you wage money, not anymore. Denny looked offended by the arithmetic, then held out a long-handled trenching shovel. This was behind the compressor. Does Ray own it? Probably Moses. Owen took the shovel. Cal treating you all right? Denny asked. He hasn't accused me of theft. High praise. Owen drove to the parcel with groceries, work gloves, stovepipe sealant, and a coil of clear plastic tubing he had bought after staring at it for 3 shifts. It was not enough to build a water system. It was enough to see whether water at one point could reach another. The farmhouse field was empty. Wade's truck was gone. Owen spent the afternoon clearing the shallow side ditches June had drawn. They were barely visible beneath leaf mold, but each time he found a section and opened it, brown surface water changed direction. Instead of crossing the fern line, it moved around it. The work was satisfying in small, immediate ways. A clogged notch opened. A puddle drained. Leaves that had trembled in standing water settled onto exposed mud. By dusk, the old stone run was still wet, while the ground around it had begun to dry. Owen pushed one end of the clear tubing between the channel stones and drew suction until muddy water hit his tongue. He spat, lowered the other end toward the spring house, and watched. Nothing came out. He sucked again, harder. Water reached the high point of the tubing, hesitated, then slid downhill in a thin brown stream. He laughed aloud. It was not a restored spring. It was not even water he would wash with, but it moved from the hidden run to the basin without a pump. Owen wedged the tube in place and returned after dark with the radio. The battery contacts had cleaned up with vinegar and sandpaper. He set it on the spring house wall while an old country station faded in and out through static. The stream became clearer as it ran. By Sunday morning, it had filled less than half a bucket. Owen photographed the bucket and sent the picture to Lauren. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Is that from the spring? From wet dirt, he wrote. She sent back, don't tell Wade. Owen smiled despite himself. Then another message appeared. I mean it. He was strange after you left. Wade had always been strange after Owen left. It was his natural response to not controlling a room. Owen emptied the bucket and walked uphill. The collection point could not be far. The fern line widened above the exposed run, then curved around a sycamore. He probed with Denny's shovel, not digging, only testing resistance. At the third spot, the blade struck hollow stone. He cleared 6 inches of soil and found another fitted edge. The old run continued beneath the bank exactly where June had drawn it. By noon, Owen had exposed 3 feet. By 2, he had exposed 7. He told himself the cut was shallow. It barely reached his boot tops. Roots held the upper wall. The surface ditches were open, and no rain had fallen since Thursday. At 8 feet, the stone channel bent sharply. Soil had packed between the rocks, thick and orange. Owen used the narrow shovel to loosen it. A section broke free and dropped into the trench. Behind it sat the end of a clay pipe, crushed flat under a knot of roots. Owen knelt, heart pounding with the pleasure of being right. Water seeped around the broken pipe and vanished into the surrounding soil. He cut one small root with loppers, then another. The third root was thicker. He sawed halfway through it before the bank made a faint cracking sound. Owen froze. A clod of dirt struck his shoulder. He scrambled backward as the upper edge folded into the trench. Soil, stones, and roots came down in one heavy slide, burying the exposed channel and snapping the shovel handle against the opposite wall. The moving earth caught Owen's left boot. He fell hard, twisted, and pulled. The boot stayed. For one wild second, he imagined the whole slope releasing above him. Then the movement stopped. Owen lay with one leg trapped to the calf, both hands clawed into wet leaves. His face was inches from the broken shovel handle. He did not call out. There was nobody close enough to hear. Slowly he rolled onto his hip and dug around his ankle with his hands. The soil was loose but heavy. Every time he pulled, the boot tightened. It took 20 minutes to free his foot. The boot remained buried. Owen sat beside the collapsed trench in one sock, shaking too hard to stand. Clouds had gathered above the trees. A drop of rain struck his cheek. By the time he found the spare work boot in his truck and returned with a full-sized shovel, rain was falling steadily. Brown water poured through the new surface ditches, but the collapsed cut had blocked one of them. It spilled over, crossed the buried stone run, and began carrying loose soil downhill. Owen dug until the light failed. The channel he had exposed was gone. His clear tube lay kinked beneath the slide. Mud filled the springhouse basin and covered the place where half a bucket of water had collected that morning. When he finally stopped, a brown stream was running past the shed. The roof no longer leaked on the side he had repaired. He sat on the folding cot in wet clothes and listened to rain strike the other half. His rescued foot throbbed inside a borrowed shape of boot. At 9:30, headlights moved across the cracks in the shed wall. A car door closed. Marisol called his name once from outside, then opened the door and took in the mud on the floor, the blood on his palms, and the single sock steaming beside the stove. "What did you do?" Owen looked toward the dark hill. "I found the pipe," he said. Marisol shut the door behind her and set a paper bag on the workbench. "You found the pipe," she repeated. "It was crushed. Your hands. They're fine. They're bleeding on your knees." Owen looked down. Mud had hidden the cuts until now. Thin red lines crossed both palms where stone edges had opened them. Marisol took the lantern from its hook and moved it closer. "Where's the first aid kit?" He nodded toward the plastic bin Lauren had brought. "That's a smoke detector. Under it." She found a zippered pouch, opened it, and stared at 3 adhesive bandages, a packet of burn cream and aspirin that had expired 4 years earlier. "This is a first aid rumor. It came with my truck. Your truck is old enough to have served in Korea. Vietnam, maybe. Sink?" He held up both hands. "Right. The invisible water." She poured drinking water from one of his jugs over his palms. The first cut stung so sharply that he pulled away. "Hold still. You're using all of it. I'll leave enough for your tea party. I have to haul it up here. And yet you chose to put both hands inside a hillside." She scrubbed around the cuts with a clean dish towel. Owen clenched his jaw. "How'd you know I was here?" he asked. "I was bringing food to June. She said the storm would make you stupid. So you came to confirm." "I came because she can't drive with her knee, and I am apparently the only person in the county who believes a shed can contain an emergency. It doesn't. You're hurt. I lost a boot." Marisol stopped cleaning his hand. "Where?" "In the trench." The lantern hissed softly. "What part of you was in the boot?" "My foot." "Was?" "I got it out." She set the towel down with careful precision. "Show me." "No." "Owen, it's sore. Nothing's broken. You know this because your eyes are certified. I can stand. People with broken feet can stand. They just do it badly and complain for 20 years. He pulled off the borrowed boot. His ankle was swollen above the sock, the skin already darkening along one side. Marisol swore. "That seems excessive. That is not a small injury. It's not a large foot." She reached for her phone. "I'm not going to the hospital. Then I'm calling June so she can describe what happens when an untreated injury heals wrong. June had her knee replaced, not a boot burial." Marisol lowered the phone. "What happened?" He told her about the clay pipe and left out the moment when the bank moved above him. He described the slide as if the dirt had politely interrupted his work. She listened without nodding. "So June told you not to open a trench," she said. "It wasn't deep. It was deep enough to trap you. I found what blocked the water, and then you buried it again." Rain intensified on the roof. On the unrepaired side, a leak struck a bucket with a hollow metal ping. Owen stood and immediately put a hand on the cot. Marisol saw. "I need to clear the ditch," he said. "You need ice. Water's running toward the shed. Then let it. This building has survived being neglected by professionals. If the lower ditch clogs, it'll cut through the track." He pulled on the boot. Marisol put both hands over her face, dragged them down, and breathed out. "Where's the other shovel?" He pointed to Ruth's tools. They went into the rain together. The lantern lit only a small circle around them. Owen showed her the lower ditch, already filling with leaves and silt. Marisol held the light while he scraped it open one-handed. "You're limping? I'm on a hill. You weren't limping on the other hill. There's only one hill. That makes this easier to document." At the bend above the shed, water poured over the ditch edge. Marisol set down the lantern and used a flat garden spade to clear mud from the outlet. The channel opened with a sucking noise, releasing a brown sheet downhill. The water divided around the shed instead of running beneath it. "That's enough," she said. "Upper side? That sounded like a place I don't want to go. It's where the trench collapsed. Then it can remain collapsed until daylight." A low rumble came through the trees. Marisol grabbed his sleeve. "It's thunder," Owen said. "That was ground. Ground sounds lower. You have developed opinions about both?" Another sound followed, sharper than thunder. Something heavy cracked uphill and fell through branches. They stood motionless. "That was a tree," Owen said. "Wonderful. The property is choosing weapons." He let her pull him back toward the shed. Inside, she made him elevate his foot on the food bag, then remembered the food and replaced it with Ruth's toolbox. She wrapped ice from a small cooler in her coat scarf and pressed it to his ankle. "What restaurant feeds people during monsoons?" he asked. "The kind where customers make reservations and arrive regardless of whether God is reconsidering the landscape." "You drove from Nashville? I work in Franklin. St. Martha's in Nashville, but they transferred me last year. So, you're nearby, for now." He heard the qualification. Marisol opened the food container. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and roasted carrots. One portion this time. "June didn't want that?" he asked. "June has become suspicious of meatloaf. She thinks people hide medication in it. Do they? Not successfully." Owen ate while she sat on the workbench, holding the lantern between them. Rainwater curled the ends of her hair. Her yellow pencil was gone. "You said June raised you," he said. "She did." "What happened?" "My mother moved to Arizona when I was 19. That's not raised. I'm 30. Ruthless arithmetic." "You said 5 years." Marisol rubbed her palms together for warmth. "I lived with June from 15 to 20. My mother had a talent for choosing men who required relocation." Owen waited. The detail had been offered, but did not feel like permission to open it. "June never pretended it was temporary," Marisol continued. "That was the useful part." He looked around the shed. "I didn't mean this," she said. "I know. Do you?" He smiled slightly. She threw the damp dish towel at him. Headlights climbed the track just before midnight. Wade's truck stopped beside the shed. He entered without knocking, wearing a canvas coat over plaid pajama pants. Water's cutting across the lower field. His eyes moved from Owen's elevated foot to Marisol, then to the bloody towel. "Hello, Wade," Marisol said. "I know who you are." "Good. Introductions would be exhausting." Wade looked at Owen. "What happened up there?" Rain's fallen before, without dumping mud through the gate. I opened side ditches. One clogged. You dug into the spring bank." Owen set aside the food container. "Who told you? I have eyes. You came up in the dark. I came up because there's a new creek in my field." Marisol rose. "He can discuss the watershed after someone checks his ankle." Wade's gaze dropped. "What did you do?" "Found the pipe." Jesus Christ. Everybody reacts like that. Because everybody but you remembers gravity. "I remember you telling me the spring was dead. It was. Water doesn't agree." Wade stepped closer. Rain glistened on his coat shoulders. "You don't know what you're looking at. We opened that bank once. Half the slope came down. Dad opened it. We both did." The admission quieted the shed. Wade looked toward the black window. "We were trying to clear the clay line. Started at the lower end. Then he decided the blockage was higher. We had no shoring, no plan. Just shovels, and the idea that not stopping meant we knew what we were doing." "When was this?" "After the logging, June said you filled it back, because there was a storm coming." "Like this one?" "Worse." "And Dad left?" Wade turned on him. Your father had a wife waiting at home and a temper. Don't make that into some noble protest. You've made it into nothing for 15 years. I made it stable. You buried it. I kept the hill from coming down onto the shed nobody uses, the shed you're sitting in. Owen got to his feet. Pain flashed up his ankle, but he stayed standing. Wade's eyes followed the movement. You hurt yourself. I'm fine. Of course you are. Mercers only have two conditions, fine and dead. Marisol made a small sound that might have been a laugh under different circumstances. Wade pointed uphill. No more digging. You don't control what I do up there? No, but mud doesn't stop at your line. Fix what you sent across the track and don't touch that bank until it dries. You gonna help? Wade's face closed. That's what I thought, Owen said. Wade stepped outside. At the door, he stopped without turning. Your father nearly lost his leg doing the same damn thing. The rain filled the silence after him. Owen followed as far as the doorway. What? Wade looked back. Clay pipe snapped under him. Cut through his boot. That's why he quit. He told us he heard it at work. He didn't want your mother knowing he'd come up here again. You knew that and let me dig? I told you to leave it alone. You told me water caused trouble. That's not the same thing. I didn't think you'd hear one drip and start excavating the county. Wade walked into the rain. Marisol stood behind Owen. Your family has a strange relationship with specific warnings. He watched the truck lights descend between the trees. My father came back, he said. To the spring? After Wade filled it, he came back alone. The knowledge should have connected something. Instead, it made the old anger less orderly. Owen's phone rang at 6:10 in the morning. Cal Brewer did not say hello. You were scheduled at 11. Owen had forgotten the entire shift. He closed his eyes. I know. No, you know now. I got hurt. You own a phone. It was outside. Was your mouth outside? Owen looked at Marisol asleep sitting up against the wall, her coat folded under her head. I'm sorry, he said. Cal was quiet. I need the job, Owen added. That fact does not distinguish you from anybody else on nights. I'll be there tonight. If you're late, don't come through the employee door. The call ended. Marisol opened her eyes. You missed work? Apparently, because you were digging. Because the trench collapsed. She stood slowly, stiff from the cold. Say the whole sentence. He knew what she wanted, because I dug a trench after people told me not to. And it collapsed. And I'm not doing confession before breakfast. She picked up her cooler. At the door, she looked back at him. You're allowed to care about something without feeding yourself into it. The sentence irritated him because it sounded simple. After she left, Owen limped uphill in gray morning light. The cut he had opened was completely gone. Mud lay smooth across it, as if no shovel had touched the bank. The fern line had been flattened. His boot protruded heel up from the slide. He pulled it free and found the leather packed with orange clay. Below, the springhouse basin held several inches of brown water. Not the spring, runoff. Owen sat on the wall and watched silt settle slowly to the bottom. He had changed the hill. That was the only thing he knew for certain. The water no longer moved as it had before. Owen spent the morning repairing what had moved instead of chasing what had disappeared. He cleared the lower ditch by hand because the broken shovel was useless and Ruth's garden spade was too wide. Water had cut a narrow channel through Wade's field, carrying leaves and orange silt almost to the barn. Owen followed it downhill with a rake, spreading the deposits before they hardened. Wade came out at 7, wearing work boots and carrying 2 mugs. He set one on the fence post without offering it. You're supposed to stay off that ankle. You called the doctor? I possess common sense. Keep it dry. It's valuable. Wade watched Owen pull leaves from the drainage notch beside the gate. You'll make a bigger mess raking mud, he said. It'll wash again if I leave it packed. Not if you direct the water along the fence. That sends it toward Lauren's orchard. The orchard has a swale. The swale is full. Wade sipped his coffee. Your grandmother kept it clear. Then somebody should continue. The words came out pointed, though Owen was not sure at whom. Wade looked toward the farmhouse. I'll do it. You'll do what? Clear the orchard swale. Owen straightened, one muddy hand braced on the rake. Today? You need a ceremony? No. I need to know whether to believe you. Wade picked up the second mug and walked away with both. At Brewer's, Cal waited beside the time clock. "This is the conversation where you explain dependability?" Owen asked. "This is the conversation where you sign your warning." Cal handed him a single page on a clipboard. Owen read it. "It says unexcused absence. You didn't come and you didn't call. I know what it means. Then our training program is working." Owen signed. Cal looked at his limp. "You able to work?" "Yes." "That wasn't a masculinity question. We have workers' compensation forms and nobody wants to use them." "I can work." Cal nodded toward a stool by the loading desk. "You're scanning fasteners tonight." It was lighter work, given without being called mercy. Owen resented Cal for noticing and liked him slightly for denying it. At midnight, Nita found him comparing prices on transfer pumps during break. "What are you transferring? Muddy water. From? A stone basin? To? Somewhere else? You joining a cult?" He showed her the photograph of the spring house after the storm. She enlarged the image with 2 fingers. "That wall's bowed, I know. That beam split, I know. You're standing under it, not when the roof is falling." A person can be smart in such specific ways. Nita had a small utility pump in her garage, left from a basement flood. She agreed to lend it if Owen stopped asking whether it could handle silt. "It can handle dirty water," she said. "Dirty is not gravel. If you feed it gravel, I'll charge you emotionally," he promised. 2 afternoons later, the pump groaned beside the spring house while brown water traveled through a hose toward the lower ditch. Owen placed the intake in a milk crate lined with window screen. For 20 minutes, it worked beautifully. Then the basin level dropped enough to expose the mud. The screen collapsed inward. The intake sucked against it. The motor shrieked once and fell silent. Owen unplugged it immediately. A burned electrical smell rose from the casing. He carried the pump to the shed and took it apart on the workbench. Mud had worked past the seal. The impeller was jammed, and the motor housing was hotter than he could touch. The replacement price at Brewer's was $179. Nita listened to his confession while driving the forklift. "I said dirty water. It was dirty. It was pudding. I'm replacing it. You're repairing it. Motor may be gone, then you're repairing it into a new one." He bought the replacement on payday and ate peanut butter for 4 days. His ankle improved. The cuts on his hands closed into tender pink lines. He stopped digging into the bank, partly because he had learned something, and partly because Marisol checked. She came twice a week with restaurant food she continued to describe as accidental. Some nights, she sat by the stove while he repaired tools. Other nights, she walked the open surface channels with him and asked questions irritating enough to reveal mistakes. "Why does this one stop here?" she asked, pointing to a ditch that ended above the shed. "Because the ground rises. It doesn't. It rises from that direction. Water is arriving from this direction." He stared at the slope, then extended the ditch 6 feet. The next rain passed around the shed instead of under it. Marisol said nothing. "You can look pleased," he told her. "I'm trying not to interrupt the regional expert." June's knee improved enough for her to stand at the kitchen counter, though she still used a cane outdoors. Owen brought her photographs of every stone section he uncovered without excavation. She identified one old overflow route, rejected 2 others, and accused him of holding the phone too close to everything. "You know what a leaf looks like," he said. "I know what half a leaf looks like. Move back." She remembered the spring trough freezing at the edges, but never in the center. She remembered Ruth scouring algae from the stone with a stiff brush. She remembered Owen's father, Daniel, coming to her door one night with a bleeding leg and ordering her not to telephone his wife. "Did Grandma know?" Owen asked. Ruth knew the next morning. Did she stop him going back? "Your grandmother couldn't stop Daniel from entering a room, much less a feud." "Why didn't anybody tell me? You were 16 and angry at the whole county. I could have handled it." June looked over her glasses. "You're 22 and living in an unheated shed to argue with dirt." He had no reply that improved his position. Lauren returned on a Friday with 3 suitcases and a laptop bag. She parked at the cottage, then walked uphill in jeans too clean for the road. "You look less likely to die," she said. "Warm greeting. Your roof looks better, half of it." She entered the shed carrying a grocery bag. Owen saw coffee, bread, eggs, and a package of steaks he would never have bought. "You don't have to keep bringing supplies. I brought them to the cottage, then remembered you were up here eating soup with a screwdriver. I use a spoon. When you have company?" She noticed Marisol's yellow pencil on the workbench. Marisol had left it 3 nights earlier and refused to drive back for it. Lauren picked it up. Company? June's niece. Marisol. You know her? I know who she is. That's everybody's favorite sentence. Lauren replaced the pencil exactly where she had found it. I'm going to get the cottage ready to rent. You said part-time. I can do both. Short stays when I'm in Nashville, use it when I'm here. Owen waited. I was hoping you'd look at the water line, she said. There it is. Was that joy? I enjoy being remembered for my skills. The pressure is terrible in the kitchen, and the well's cloudy after rain. Wade's well. The cottage line branches from the house. Then ask Wade. He says it's sediment and will clear. Does it? Eventually. Owen took his flashlight from the bench. Show me. The cottage sat at the orchard's upper edge, a white clapboard building Ruth had renovated 15 years earlier for guests who mostly never came. Lauren had already replaced the faded curtains. A bowl of lemons sat on the kitchen table, all facing attractive directions. Owen opened the faucet. Water coughed, then ran with a pale brown cast. Filter? He asked. Changed yesterday. He checked the cabinet below, then the shutoff outside. Nothing leaked. Could be the well, he said. Could be the line. Can you fix it? Not without knowing which. She leaned against the counter. I need photos by next week. Photograph the lemons. I'm serious. So am I. Don't promise guests drinking water until you know why it looks like tea. Lauren folded her arms. You hear the word guests and imagine I've become Travis. I hear you're building income on Wade saying it'll clear. What's wrong with that? Wade says things clear when he doesn't want to look at them. Her eyes narrowed. You've been living up there a month and now you're the family hydrologist? No. I'm the person willing to say brown water is brown. They went outside without settling it. The orchard looked worse than it had at Ruth's funeral. Several apple trees carried sparse leaves. One peach had a dead upper limb. The swale Owen had mentioned was partly cleared, but branches and last year's grass still blocked the lower bend. Wade said he'd do this, Owen said. He did some. He did what was visible from the house. Lauren kicked at the packed grass. Help me finish? Owen looked at her clean jeans. Not for free, she added. I'll pay you. You don't have to pay me. I'm not asking for brother labor. I'm asking because you know how the water moves now. The distinction mattered more than he wanted it to. They worked until dusk, opening the swale along the orchard rows. Lauren lasted longer than he expected. She blistered both hands and refused his gloves until a branch tore her palm. Family trait, Owen said while handing them over. Fine or dead, rejecting available equipment. At the lower end, the swale passed near Travis's parcel. Bright survey flags dotted the roadside acreage. Fresh tire tracks pressed through the grass. A skid steer sat beside the old stone trough. Travis appeared from behind it, with rolled plans tucked beneath one arm. There's the water committee, he said. What are you doing? Owen asked. Taking measurements? For what? Storage buildings. 4 to start, maybe 6. Lauren looked at the flags. You're putting units here? People pay more to store furniture than to own it. It's the American economy. The proposed entrance crossed the shallow depression that carried overflow from the orchard toward the road. Owen pointed. You'll need drainage along that side. I have drainage. You have a ditch full of gravel. Same concept, improved texture. Where does the water go? Travis smiled. Downhill. Downhill is the old trough and the road. Then it can reminisce. Owen stepped closer to the plans. Travis rolled them tighter. Don't start, Lauren said quietly. He cuts that grade. Runoff comes back toward the orchard, Owen said. Travis's smile thinned. You own the hill, Owen. I own the flat. Keep your water on your side, and I'll keep my gravel on mine. That isn't how it works. It's exactly how property works. No, Owen said. It's how fences work. Travis climbed into the skid steer. The engine started with a hard mechanical bark. He lowered the bucket and pushed into the first strip of earth beside the trough. Mud curled ahead of the blade. Lauren stood next to Owen, both of them watching the shallow drainage path disappear beneath a ridge of fresh soil. We should tell Wade, she said. Owen looked uphill toward the farmhouse. He knows, he said. Wade stood at the edge of the hayfield, hands in his pockets, watching Travis grade. Wade did not move as the skid steer carved a second strip through the grass. Owen crossed the swale toward him. Lauren followed until the ground became muddy, then stopped to protect the boots that had already lost the argument. You approve this? Owen asked. Wade kept his eyes on the machine. It's Travis's land. That isn't an answer. It's the answer that matters. He's blocking drainage. He's leveling for a pad. With a ridge on the uphill side, he'll put in a culvert. Travis lifted the bucket and reversed. The skid steer's warning beep repeated through the field. When? Owen asked. When he gets to it. It'll rain before he gets to it. Wade finally looked at him. You want me to stop a man from working his own parcel because you've spent a month studying puddles? I want all four of us to stop pretending water reads the will. Lauren came closer. He's right about the swale. Travis killed the engine. I can hear you. Then this will save time, Owen said. Don't fill that drainage line. I'm not filling it. I'm crossing it. With dirt. Temporarily. Wade rubbed his forehead. Travis, put the culvert in before the next rain. I said I would. You said down was the drainage plan, Lauren told him. That was humor, a local tradition you two have abandoned. Owen pointed to the ridge. Open a break tonight. Travis climbed down from the machine. I'm not taking construction orders from somebody camping behind a dead spring. The insult landed less cleanly than it once would have. Owen looked at the fresh soil packed across the swale. Then take one from gravity, he said. Travis stepped close enough for Owen to smell mint gum. You know what your problem is? Limited breakfast options. You think suffering makes you qualified. Lauren said his name sharply, but Travis continued. You stayed with Grandma, so now nobody can tell you anything. You live rough, you work nights, you limp around digging ditches, and we're supposed to mistake it for wisdom. Owen's hands closed. Travis glanced at them. Go ahead, stand aggressively. Wade came between them. Enough. Tell him to open the ridge, Owen said. I told him to install the culvert, before rain. Wade's face hardened. And I heard you. You don't need to keep saying a thing after every person in the field understands it. Understanding isn't the same as doing. No, Wade said. That's another family tradition. Owen looked at Lauren. She stared toward the cottage, where late sunlight flashed on the windows. What? He asked. I have to get the kitchen line handled before the photographer comes, she said. He waited for her to add something else. She did not. That night, he opened a shallow bypass along the edge of his own parcel. It could not protect the orchard or the road, but it might keep redirected water from crossing the track above his shed. Marisol held one end of a borrowed measuring tape while he found the fall. You're pulling too hard, she said. It has to be straight. It is straight. I'm becoming part of the terrain. 2 inches left. You've said that for 10 feet. He set a level on the line and crouched to read the bubble. Drop your end 1/2 inch. I don't know what 1/2 inch feels like while attached to a thorn bush. Less than an inch. Thank you, engineering. She lowered it. The bubble centered. Owen marked the spot with a stick. What does that tell us? Marisol asked. Water will move this direction if I grade it right. And if you grade it wrong, it'll reveal my character, she laughed. Nita? Nita. They worked until the last light left the trees. Marisol used Ruth's garden hoe to pull loose soil away from the ditch, while Owen shaped the outlet with the trenching shovel he had repaired, using a new ash handle. His movements had changed since the collapse. He tested every bank before kneeling below it. He cut no roots thicker than his thumb. When the ground sounded hollow, he marked the place and went around. Marisol noticed, but did not congratulate him. At the shed, he lit the stove and tuned Ruth's radio through static. The station played a song June liked. Marisol sat on the cot, rubbing dirt from her forearm. Your sister's cottage is on the restaurant booking site, she said. You looking for a romantic weekend? I look at local listings to see where customers are staying. Hers says peaceful orchard retreat with reliable modern comforts. Reliable is bold. Does the water still look like tea? Only after rain. That is when tea looks most appealing. Owen opened 2 beers he had bought with his replacement pump money after Nita refused reimbursement beyond the new pump. Marisol accepted one. You can afford this? Cal gave me overtime. For working hard? For being insufficiently unreliable to fire. They tapped bottles. Through the open door, fireflies blinked over the fern line. You could make this place beautiful, Marisol said. Owen looked around at the patched roof, soot-dark wall, and floorboards that changed height without warning. Have another beer. I mean the land. It's steep, wet in the wrong places, dry in the others, and the closest relative is Wade. Beauty has survived worse. He watched a firefly rise toward the spring house. What are you going back to? He asked. Marisol turned the bottle between her palms. When? You keep saying you're here for now. June doesn't need me much longer. That wasn't the question. It sounded like one. He waited. She sighed. I have an apartment in Franklin that currently contains 6 dead plants. St. Martha wants me to take over the Nashville location in August. Promotion, more money, more staff, more ways to discover. People can misunderstand the phrase label and date. You don't want it? I wanted it for 2 years. They offered it when I stopped arranging my life around being offered. He understood that kind of irritation. June wants you to stay, he said. June wants better butter and control of weather. Desire isn't a plan, neither is Nashville. No, Nashville is a city. Their shoulders touched when she stood. Neither moved immediately. The radio lost the station. Static rushed into the quiet. Marisol reached past him to adjust the dial. Her face came close enough that he could see a faint scar through one eyebrow. He kissed her. For a second, she did not react. Then she put one hand on the side of his neck and kissed him back with enough certainty to expose how little of his own he had brought. When she pulled away, Owen said, "Was that regional expertise?" "No. That was poor boundary management. Restaurant problem. Constant." She kissed him once more, shorter, then took her coat. "You're leaving?" "Yes." "Because of the boundaries?" "Because I open a restaurant tomorrow, and you stock lumber all night." I thought the story was getting better. It might. Sleep occasionally. After she drove away, Owen sat by the open door until mosquitoes found him. The rain came before Travis installed the culvert. It was not a storm, only a steady afternoon rain. Water backed against the dirt ridge, spread into the orchard, and cut sideways toward the spring parcel. Owen's bypass caught most of it, but silt filled half the channel and buried 3 of his markers. He sent photographs to Wade and Travis. Wade replied, "We see it." Travis sent a thumbs up. The culvert appeared the following day. It was too small and set several inches higher than the bottom of the swale, but it moved some water. Owen asked Travis to lower it. Travis said the gravel was already compacted. Owen asked Wade to make him lower it. Wade said the work was done and they would monitor it. Lauren said nothing until she came uphill carrying 2 loads of laundry because the cottage washer had stained sheets brown. "You knew," Owen said when he saw the sheets. "I knew the water changed after rain. You knew about Travis's grade." What was I supposed to do? Chain myself to the skid steer? Say something while Wade was standing there? I did. "You said I was right, then remembered your photographer." Lauren dropped the laundry bag beside the shed. "I have reservations now. For brown sheet weekends, 3 bookings. I can't start a war with Wade when my guests cross his drive and use his water. It's not his water when you need it, but it's his decision when I do. That's not fair. It's exact." She looked down the hill toward the cottage. "I'm trying to make something work too. Then help make the whole place work. I can't repair every old family problem before somebody checks in Friday." "No. You're just hoping I'll repair yours." Lauren's face went still. "I offered to pay you. That doesn't make silence better." She picked up the laundry bag. He thought she would carry it away. Instead, she pushed past him into the shed and began stripping the brown quilt from the cot. "What are you doing? Washing this too? It doesn't need it. It smells like stove smoke and man. That is its natural condition." She bundled the quilt with the sheets. "I'll talk to Wade." "When?" "Tonight. While I'm at work. That may be safer for everybody." She carried the laundry downhill. Whether she spoke to Wade or not, nothing changed. The small culvert remained. Travis laid gravel over the pad and stacked bundles of metal framing beside it. The days grew hotter. Rain stopped. By the middle of May, the surface ditches dried pale and hard. Water no longer gathered at the exposed section of Old Stone Run. The ferns curled at their edges. Owen checked the springhouse basin every morning after work. It held only dust, leaves, and 1 dead beetle. He began hauling extra water to keep the ground damp around the section he had accidentally exposed, then stopped when June told him that pouring water onto a spring was like shouting answers into a telephone. "You need to watch what the hill does without you," she said. "It's doing nothing. That is something." The farmhouse well began coughing air. Wade lowered the pump and announced that the level was adequate. Lauren bought bottled water for guests and did not include it in her expenses when she told Owen the cottage had made a profit. The orchard suffered first. Leaves curled. Young fruit dropped before ripening. Lauren carried buckets to the smallest trees until her shoulders cramped. Owen helped twice, then told her they needed a system. "With what water?" she asked. "That's the question we should all be answering." He called a family meeting for Sunday evening. Travis arrived 20 minutes late and remained standing in Ruth's kitchen. Wade sat at the head of the table. Lauren brought her laptop and opened a document as if taking minutes might make them behave. Owen spread June's rough hill drawing beside the county map. The well, orchard, road drainage, and spring tract affect each other, he said. We need one plan for runoff before we get a hard storm. Clear the orchard swales, lower Travis's culvert, maintain the ditches along Wade's field, and stop cutting grade without checking where it drains. Travis raised a hand. Do we vote before or after refreshments? Wade ignored him. Who drew this? June. June hasn't been on that hill in years. She remembers it better than we do. This line isn't surveyed. It's water, not a boundary. Wade sat back. You're making decisions for everybody based on a spring that doesn't run. Owen looked at Lauren. She stared at her laptop screen. Say it, he told her. Her fingers remained on the keyboard. I think the culvert should be lowered, and we should manage runoff. Wade's eyes narrowed. You having problems at the cottage? Lauren hesitated. That small pause answered him. Wade turned to Owen. This is about the well. It's about all of it. My well is fine. Your well is cloudy and dropping. It has dropped before. Travis tapped the county map. This is your parcel, Owen. That's mine. You want to play in the mud? Enjoy yourself. Don't turn it into a homeowners association. Owen looked around Ruth's kitchen. 4 inherited pieces. 4 adults waiting for somebody else's damage to become expensive first. All right, he said. Lauren looked up. What does that mean? It means do what you want. He rolled June's drawing and left. Behind him, chairs scraped. Nobody followed. When Owen reached the gate, heat lightning flickered beyond the western ridge. His phone showed a severe storm watch for the following night. Down by the road, Travis's skid steer was running under portable work lights, pushing another load of fill against the undersized culvert. Owen walked down to the road. Travis saw him coming and raised the bucket without shutting off the engine. Dust rolled through the portable lights. You're covering the inlet, Owen shouted. Travis pointed at his ear as though he could not hear. Owen stepped in front of the skid steer. The machine stopped. Travis killed the engine and opened the cab door. You trying to get run over? I'm trying to get you to stop. Same method, apparently. The storm watch starts tomorrow, so I'm finishing tonight. You're compacting fill above a culvert that's already too high. I'm grading the entrance. Water will pass through, not if the inlet is buried. Travis climbed down, leaving the work lights glaring across both of them. You held your meeting. Nobody appointed you. This isn't about being appointed. It is to you. You finally own something, and suddenly we all need your permission to touch ours. Owen looked at the ridge of fill, open 10 feet on the orchard side. You can close it after the storm, and delay the concrete truck. Delay it. You covering the charge? I'll do the work myself. You're not touching my site. The two of them stood close enough to hear each other breathe. Why do you care so much about proving me wrong? Owen asked. Travis's face changed. I don't. You'll risk the whole grade before taking one suggestion from me. I'm not risking anything. Then open it. Travis climbed back into the cab. Owen did not move until the engine started. The bucket hung a few feet in front of him, motionless. For one moment, Travis's face behind the glass looked frightened rather than angry. Then Wade's truck horn sounded from the field. Owen, Wade called through the open window. Get out of his way. Owen stepped aside. The skid steer pushed another curl of soil over the inlet. At Brewer's, thunder rattled the loading bay doors before midnight. Nita checked the weather on her phone between pallets. That line's moving fast. Owen watched green and yellow shapes crawl across the map. A red band had already crossed the county line. Cal came through the warehouse telling everyone to secure the outdoor stock. Owen spent 20 minutes strapping insulation bundles while the wind lifted their plastic edges like wings. Rain struck the metal roof at 12:40. Within seconds, it was loud enough to swallow conversation. Owen called Wade. No answer. He called Lauren. My guests are asking if the power always flickers, she said. Get them away from the orchard side. Water's going to back up at Travis's grade. I know. Wade's outside. Tell him to open the ridge. He took the tractor down there. A burst of static covered her next words. What? Part of the swale is already overflowing. Get out of the cottage if it comes across the porch. The cottage is uphill from the swale. It's downhill from me. Do it if the water rises. Cal stood behind Owen when he ended the call. You leaving? Cal asked. I need to. You left once already. My place is in the drainage path, so is half the county tonight. Owen looked through the open bay. Rain swept sideways through the yard lights. Cal glanced at the radar on Owen's screen. Go. You're back tomorrow unless a house actually lands on you. It's not a house. Then lower standards apply. Owen drove slowly until he reached the Mercer Road. There, water crossed the pavement in a brown sheet. Travis's fill had turned the old drainage depression into a shallow pond. The undersized culvert took a narrow stream. Everything else pushed sideways through the orchard. Wade's tractor sat axle deep near the inlet. Wade and Travis worked in headlamps, trying to cut through the fill with shovels. Owen parked on the shoulder. "You were right," Travis shouted before Owen could speak. The words sounded less like an apology than an accusation. "Move the tractor. It won't move. Then dig away from it. If the bank releases, the water will shove it across the road." Wade stabbed his shovel into the packed soil. "Get Lauren out of the cottage. She's watching the lower swale. She shouldn't be." Owen called her again while running uphill. She answered breathless. "The guest couple left," she said. "I moved their car." "Where are you?" "Behind the cottage. Water's across the orchard. Get to the house. I'm trying to open the lower ditch." "Lauren, I heard you." He found her ankle-deep in water beside a collapsed section of swale, pulling branches with both hands. Her raincoat hood had blown back. Together they cleared enough debris for the water to move, but it did not follow the old route. Travis's ridge forced it toward the spring parcel, where it struck Owen's bypass harder than he had designed it to take. The upper edge crumbled. Water rushed across the track. Owen ran. The beam of his flashlight jumped wildly through trees. His channels overflowed one after another, spilling across the fern line and cutting into the ground he had stabilized. Gravel lifted and moved downhill. Marking sticks vanished. A crack sounded above the shed. He looked up as a heavy oak limb tore free. It struck the repaired side of the roof, punched through plywood and underlayment, then drove one splintered end into the cot. Rain poured through the hole. Owen dragged his duffel and toolboxes outside. The brown quilt snagged beneath the branch. By the time he pulled it free, mud and water had soaked the center. Another rush came down the track. It entered the shed, lifted the camp stove, and slammed it against the wall. "Owen!" Lauren's light appeared below. "Stay back!" She climbed anyway. Marisol arrived behind her, wearing restaurant trousers beneath a raincoat. Owen did not ask how she knew. They moved what they could to higher ground. Ruth's radio slipped from Owen's hands and struck the floor. The plastic case split. Its last burst of static ended under muddy water. At the spring house, the basin overflowed brown. The restored surface channels were no longer visible. Water had carved a fresh route through the collapsed trench, carrying stones and clay into the lower wall. Part of it folded inward with a deep, final sound. Weeks of work disappeared in less than an hour. By dawn, the storm had passed. The 4 parcels lay under the same mud. Travis's gravel pad had lost one corner. Lauren's orchard swale was gouged, and 2 trees leaned at exposed roots. The hayfield held branches and trash carried from the road. On Owen's parcel, the shed roof gaped open, and the springhouse basin was filled to its rim with silt and broken stone. Wade came uphill alone. He stood outside the shed, looking at the branch through the cot. "You can stay at the house," he said. Owen wrung water from Ruth's quilt. Brown streams ran over his boots. "No, that wasn't pride talking. The roof is open. I can see it." Wade bent to lift the damaged radio, but Owen took it from him. "Travis will pay for material," Wade said. "Will he?" "I'll make sure, like you made sure he put the culvert in." Wade's face tightened. "We were trying to cut it open." "After." "Yes, after. That's when people fix mistakes, not in this family." Owen set the radio beside the toolbox. The speaker grill was packed with mud. "Offer still stand?" he asked. Wade looked at him. "For the parcel." "Owen, does it? I said 8 before you started all this." "And now?" Wade studied the wrecked roof and washed-out track. 8. It was less than Owen had expected, and more than the hill felt worth at that moment. "Fine," he said. Wade did not seem relieved. "Don't decide today. You've been trying to buy it since the funeral. I was trying to keep it together. Congratulations. I mean the farm. So do I." Wade took a step closer. "Sleep first." I said yes. Owen walked away before Wade could refuse the answer he had wanted. He called Cal and said he would not be in. Cal was quiet for a long time. Did a house land on you? A tree landed on where I sleep. That meets the spirit. I may need another day. You get one. After that, I need somebody who arrives. Owen ended the call and sat outside the spring house. Mud covered the fitted stones. The fern line looked combed flat. There was no trickle beneath the ground, only the occasional drop falling from leaves. Marisol found him there. She lowered herself onto the wall without mentioning the mud. You sold it? She asked. Wade told you. Lauren did. I agreed to sell. There's a difference until paperwork. You want me to talk you out of it? No. Good. I wasn't going to. He looked at her. Marisol picked clay from the cuff of her trousers. You can leave a thing that hurts you. That doesn't mean it won. Everybody says that when they want leaving to sound noble. Sometimes it's not noble. Sometimes it's Tuesday. It's Monday. I've been awake 30 hours. Owen stared at the buried basin. Ruth left me the family's damage because she knew I'd clean it up. You don't know that. She gave Wade the house. Lauren got something she can rent. Travis got something he can ruin for profit. She gave me a hill she stopped fixing. Maybe she made a bad decision. That's supposed to help? It means dead people remain people. They don't become master planners because we miss them. The word struck a place he had protected with anger. Owen stood. I need to salvage the shed. Marisol followed without asking. By afternoon, June arrived in Lauren's SUV. Lauren drove. June sat in the passenger seat with her cane wedged between her knees and a cardboard box on her lap. You cannot climb that track, Marisol said. I can climb whatever I please badly, June replied. They brought her as far as the shed in stages, Lauren on one arm and Marisol on the other. June refused to look winded when they reached it. Owen was sorting wet tools into salvageable and lost. June set the box at the workbench. These were in Ruth's pantry cabinet behind the canning jars. If it's more sweaters, I've lost storage capacity. Not sweaters. Inside were spiral notebooks, cheap ones with flowers and birds on the covers. Ruth's handwriting filled the first page. April 3rd, lower ditch clogged below Peach Row. Wade says he'll clear it. Did not. June sat on the workbench stool while Owen turned pages. Water levels, rainfall, garden planting dates, notes about the well filter and orchard swales, sketches of the springhouse wall, lists of stones that had shifted and repairs Ruth could no longer manage. Nothing was hidden. Nothing promised him value. It was the record of an old woman paying attention, while everyone else called attention worry. In the last notebook, Ruth had written names beside the parcels: Wade, House, and Hayfield. He has never known himself apart from it. Lauren, cottage and orchard. She wants a place she can return to. Travis, road tract. He will see what it can become. I pray he learns to see what it already is. Owen turned the page. His name stood alone near the top. He notices what needs tending. Below it, added in darker ink months later, was another line. I hope I have not mistaken that gift for permission to burden him. Owen read it twice. Then he closed the notebook because the third time would have broken something open in front of everyone. June did not ask what Ruth had written. She sat with both hands on the head of her cane, while Owen carried the notebooks into the least damaged corner of the shed. He wrapped them in a dry towel and placed them inside Ruth's metal toolbox. Lauren held the torn quilt against her chest. I can wash this. It's full of insulation. I can pick it out. You don't have to. I know. That answer stopped him. Owen looked at the branch through the roof, the muddy radio, the tools laid across boards to dry. Every object seemed to be asking whether it belonged to a future or a trash pile. I'm not fixing the spring house, he said. June nodded once. Marisol's face gave nothing away. I'm not selling today either, he continued. I'm fixing the shed enough to sleep in, and I'm opening one drainage route correctly. After that, I'll decide. Lauren lowered the quilt. What about Wade? He told me not to decide yesterday. He meant not to decide against him. Then he needs more precise warnings. June reached for the nearest wet screwdriver. This one can be saved. They worked until evening, not heroically. June sat beneath a tarp and directed the cleaning of tools with the authority of a field commander. Lauren washed mud from sockets and buckets. Marisol cut the ruined middle from the brown quilt and pinned the dry ends together for later sewing. Owen climbed onto the roof only after they tied a rope around the branch and pulled it free from below. When he tried to carry a plywood sheet alone, Marisol took the other end. I have it, he said. I'm not measuring your strength. I'm moving plywood. Together they covered the hole before the next rain. Wade arrived after sunset. He stood near the gate and waited for Owen to walk down rather than entering the parcel. "You changed your mind," he said. "I delayed it because of the notebooks, because I don't want to sell while I'm angry. That hasn't stopped most real estate transactions." Owen rested one arm on the repaired gate. "I'm giving myself until spring." "For what?" "To see whether I want the place. Not whether the water runs?" "No." Wade studied him, searching for a trick that was not there. "And if you decide you don't, you can make another offer. 8 may not stand. Then neither will the answer." A moth struck the gatepost light repeatedly. Wade looked uphill. "You need help with the roof? It's covered. I asked if you need help." Owen almost said no. The word had already formed. "Yes," he said. "Saturday morning. I need 2 more sheets and somebody on the ladder." Wade's surprise was brief but visible. "I'll be here at 8. At 8, not Wade 8. I know what a clock is. Grandma's lower ditch suggests otherwise." Wade's mouth tightened. 8. He arrived at 7:30 with lumber, roofing panels, and Travis. Owen considered sending Travis home. Travis avoided his eyes and unloaded the first panel without speaking. For 4 hours, the 3 men repaired the roof. Wade measured everything twice. Travis installed screws too fast and stripped 2 heads. Owen made him remove them. At noon, Lauren brought sandwiches. They ate outside the shed because nobody wanted to test whether the repaired roof could hold the weight of all their silence. Travis wiped mustard from his thumb. The concrete crew pulled out. Owen waited. "I have to regrade the pad," Travis said. "Lost more than it looked." "I'm sorry." Travis glanced at him, suspicious of the sincerity. "Insurance says drainage is site preparation." "Usually is." "The culvert has to come out." "Yes." Another silence. "I'll put in a bigger one," Travis said. "Set it at the bottom of the swale. I know." "You knew before." Travis crushed his sandwich wrapper. "Do you want it fixed, or do you want me to apologize in the woods?" Both would save time. Wade stood and gathered the trash. "Roof first." It was not an apology, but the larger culvert went in the following week. Owen watched the work without offering help. Travis lowered it to the proper grade and opened a broad inlet protected by stone. When he finished, he sent Owen a photograph rather than a thumbs up. Lauren's access agreement took longer. The farm track across Wade's field remained the shortest route to the spring parcel. But every use came with a reminder that Wade considered it generosity. Lauren's cottage boundary touched Owen's lower corner along a narrow strip beside the orchard. An old wagon path there was buried beneath honeysuckle and 2 fallen trees. "You can use it," Lauren said, "until your guests complain. They won't." "Put that in writing." Her expression changed. "You think I'd stop you? I think people promise things when the weather's good. That's cruel. It's practical." They stood at the edge of the overgrown path. Mosquitoes whined around their faces. Owen unfolded a single sheet he had written at June's kitchen table. It allowed him and people working with him to use and maintain a 12-foot path along the cottage boundary. In return, he would keep its drainage open, repair damage he caused, and give Lauren notice before bringing vehicles through while guests were present. "No lawyers?" Lauren asked. "If you want one, get one. No money? It's access for maintenance." She read it twice. "What if I sell the cottage? Then we deal with whoever buys it, or record something permanent later." "I'm not trying to trap you." "You're trying not to be trapped." "Yes." Lauren looked toward the farmhouse. "Wade's going to take this personally. That's his hobby." She signed on the hood of her SUV. Owen signed beneath her name. Clearing the wagon path required 3 weekends. Lauren worked 1. Marisol worked 2. Wade offered his chainsaw and was refused because Owen had already borrowed June's. June introduced him to Frank Bell and Sylvia Turner, the 2 neighbors who had once helped keep the shared watercourse open. Frank was 71, narrow as a fence rail, and laughed without sound. Sylvia was 64 and ran a roadside plant stand from April through October. Neither called themselves knowledgeable. They simply remembered which places had always stayed green. Frank walked the hill with Owen and stopped well below the collapsed trench. "Your collection bed's above there," Owen said. "Probably. You don't want to see it?" "I saw Daniel nearly bury himself." Distance improved the view. Sylvia scraped soil from the lower channel with her boot. "This was never meant to catch stormwater. That's what the side ditches did. I reopened them. You reopened where they used to be." Storm changed the fall. She poured water from a bottle near the ditch head. It traveled 4 feet, pooled, then spilled toward the track. "You need to carry it farther east," she said. Owen watched the pool. Across the rock shelf? Along it. Don't fight Stone. Stone has no schedule. They offered labor in exchange for Owen repairing Frank's barn drain and rebuilding the stone border around Sylvia's herb beds. The work took him 6 evenings, but it taught him more than questions did. Frank showed him how to set a shallow channel so leaves washed through instead of collecting. Sylvia showed him how willow cuttings slowed water without sealing the ground. No one dug into the spring bank. They began below it. Owen removed the storm silt from the springhouse basin with buckets, screened gravel, and patience. He rebuilt the collapsed lower wall using its original stones. Frank refused mortar. "Wall moved for a reason," he said. "Let it breathe. What if it falls again? Then it tells you something. Everybody's making the property talk. People listen better when dirt says it." By September, the spring house was still dry, but the basin was clean. Surface water passed around it. The old stone run remained covered and protected. Owen moved the cot back into the shed. Lauren returned the brown quilt with a wide strip of blue fabric stitched through its center. The repair was straight, except where it was not. "June supervised," she said. "That explains the blue?" June wanted yellow. "Thank you for resisting." The beige radio could not be repaired. Owen kept its cracked case on the shelf and bought a used radio from Brewer's Breakroom Board for $6. It picked up the weather station, but none of Ruth's country music unless the door was open. He began calling the shed a cabin after he insulated the walls. Marisol continued calling it a shed. "A cabin has a bathroom," she said. "There's an outhouse. That is a separate building with a trench, 2 structures. It's an estate." She had accepted the Nashville promotion and spent 3 nights a week there. On the others, she came to June's or climbed the wagon path to Owen's. The distance made their time more deliberate. It also exposed the parts of him that expected leaving before anyone had announced it. One night in October, she found him awake after midnight, staring at Ruth's notebook. "You work in 4 hours," she said. "I'm checking rainfall. It hasn't rained in 12 days. "Exactly." She took the notebook from him and closed it. "I need to know what the ground is doing. The ground is sleeping. It doesn't sleep. Then one of you should." He leaned back against the wall. "If I miss something, we lose another season. If you miss sleep, Cal fires you. Then you lose groceries, roofing screws, and your impressive peanut butter collection. You make everything sound small. Small things are where people live." She placed the notebook in Ruth's toolbox. Owen reached for her hand. "Stay? I brought a toothbrush. Keep up." The first freeze came early. Ice silvered the shallow channels and split the remaining ferns at their stems. Wade winterized the cottage line after Lauren's final booking. Travis stopped work on the storage pad when the ground hardened. Owen covered the spring house basin with boards to keep leaves out and checked it less often. Snow came in December, followed by rain that turned every path slick. The new drainage routes held. Water traveled east along the rock shelf, crossed beneath Lauren's wagon path through a pipe Owen and Frank installed, and reached the old roadside trough without washing soil into it. The trough did not fill. The spring remained absent. Still, nothing collapsed. On Christmas morning, Owen ate breakfast at Ruth's farmhouse for the first time since the funeral. Lauren had come from Nashville. Travis brought biscuits. Wade burned the bacon and insisted it was crisp. They spoke about weather, work, and everything except the hill. Afterward, Wade handed Owen a small wrapped box. Inside was a new battery radio. "For the shed," he said. "Cabin. Get plumbing." Owen turned the radio over in his hands. "Thanks." Wade nodded and began collecting plates. It was easier than apology and not nearly enough. By February, water moved cleanly through every surface channel Owen had rebuilt. The orchard swale held. Travis's culvert passed 2 days of hard rain without backing up. Wade's field stayed intact. The springhouse basin remained empty. Owen stood over it on a cold gray afternoon with Ruth's notebook in his coat pocket. He no longer asked whether she had left him a test. He asked himself a smaller question. If the spring never returned, did he still want to stay? From below came Marisol's voice, arguing with the wagon path gate. Owen looked at the repaired wall, the clean basin, the slope resting beneath winter leaves. "Yes," he said aloud. Then he went down to help her with the latch. Marisol kicked the latch twice before Owen reached her. "It sticks when it's cold," he said. "It's a gate. Its responsibilities are limited. You're lifting before you pull. I have managed restaurant doors, liquor cages, freezers, loading docks, and one bathroom lock that required prayer. Open it." He lifted, pulled, and the latch released. Marisol gave him a look. Show off. She had brought a paper bag of pastries and a small rosemary plant from Sylvia's stand, though Sylvia's stand would not open for another 2 months. "For the estate," Marisol said. "It'll freeze. Then bring it indoors. The cabin gets cold while I'm at work. Good thing it's a shed." They carried the plant uphill. Snow remained in pockets beneath the trees, but the day had softened enough for water to drip from branches. The fern line was brown and flattened against the ground. At the spring house, Owen stopped. The boards covering the basin had shifted. He had weighted them with stones. One stone now rested on the ground, and a board sat crooked across the opening. "Animal?" Marisol asked. "Maybe." Owen lifted the board. The basin was not empty. Clear water covered the bottom, no deeper than the width of his finger. It trembled where a thread entered through the upper stones. No mud, no rainwater falling from the roof. The boards had kept both out. Marisol crouched beside him. "How long since it rained?" she asked. 5 days. Snowmelt could have found the channel, but the hillside above was nearly bare. The surface ditches carried nothing. Water was coming from behind the wall, following stone laid before Owen was born. He dipped 2 fingers into the basin. The cold hurt. "Is it the spring?" Marisol whispered. Owen listened. Behind the fitted stones came the faint trickling he had heard after Ruth's funeral. Only now it did not stop when he held still. "Yes," he said. They stayed kneeling until the cold entered their knees. Owen called June first. She answered on the 6th ring. "If you're injured, call Marisol. She's here." "Then why are you bothering me? There's water in the basin." Silence. "Clear?" June asked. "Clear? Flowing?" "Barely." "Good. That's all?" "What do you want, trumpets? Don't touch it." "I wasn't going to." Marisol leaned toward the phone. He already put his hand in. "That doesn't count as touching if he learns nothing," June said. "Mark the level. Take a picture. Leave it alone." Frank came in the afternoon. Sylvia arrived with 3 glass jars and the expression of someone prepared to reject enthusiasm. They marked the waterline with chalk. By evening, the basin had gained 1/2 an inch. The next morning, it gained another. The flow strengthened as the ground thawed. Water entered through the upper stonework in several small threads and collected without clouding. When the level reached the old overflow notch, it followed the cleared run toward the roadside trough. Owen did not announce it to the family. He told himself he was waiting to know whether the flow would hold. That was partly true. The rest was that the spring belonged, for a little while, to the people who had worked without demanding a reward. June climbed the wagon path with her cane and Marisol's arm. Frank brought tin cups. Sylvia brought nothing because, she said, cups had already been covered. They stood beside the roadside trough while the first water entered as a thread too thin to disturb the dead leaves at the bottom. Frank removed the leaves one by one. June touched the wet stone rim. Ruth scrubbed this every April. "It's March," Owen said. She would have started early to criticize everybody else's technique. Marisol filled a cup at the spring house. June stopped her before she drank. "We clean the whole line first." "I thought this was ceremonial." "Ceremony is no excuse for stomach trouble." They laughed, and Owen felt grief rise in him without its usual sharpness. Ruth should have been there correcting the angle of Frank's broom. She should have been telling Owen that the water was too cold for bare hands. Her absence remained an absence. It did not become a message. The spring had returned because winter recharged the hill, because old stonework survived, because surface water had been given safer places to go, and because Owen had finally stopped attacking the ground long enough to understand it. That was enough. Over the next weeks, they cleaned the basin, flushed the overflow, and reset the lower gravity line with food-safe pipe. Owen diverted only what the spring could spare after the trough filled. The rest continued downhill along its old course. He used the first steady water to start trays of fern, Solomon's seal, spice bush, and orchard rootstock in a shade frame beside the cabin. Sylvia supplied cuttings and charged him by requiring labor at her stand. "You sell these to people with washed-out banks," she said. "I have a job, you have a night shift, and the posture of a folded chair." Cal agreed to reduce Owen to 4 nights a week after pretending to object for 10 minutes. "You quitting by fractions?" he asked. I'm trying something. Trying doesn't come with dental. Neither does this job. Cal looked irritated by facts. 4 nights. You cover every second Saturday. Sylvia sent Owen to repair a drainage channel behind a church hall. Frank recommended him to a couple whose driveway lost gravel in every rain. Neither job paid much, but both led to another. Owen stopped thinking of the work as saving land. Mostly he watched where water wanted to go and made the route less destructive. The spring gave him a place to demonstrate that. By April, the trough ran continuously. Lauren discovered it when she returned to prepare the cottage for wedding season bookings. She came uphill carrying her shoes, mud between her toes, and stopped at the spring house without speaking. Owen was transplanting spicebush into small pots. "When?" she asked. "March." "You didn't tell me. I wasn't sure it would hold." "It's April." It held. She knelt beside the basin and touched the surface. "You told June." "Yes." "Marisol?" "She was here." "Frank and Sylvia?" "They helped." Lauren sat back. "But not me." Owen pressed soil around a root. "You had reservations. That's cruel." "It used to be." She looked at him for a long time. "I deserved that once. Not forever." He stopped working. Water slipped through the overflow notch with a low, steady sound. "You signed the access agreement," he said. "I did more than sign paper. You washed a quilt. I cleared the orchard with you. I spoke to Wade. After." "Yes, after. I keep arriving after." Her voice tightened. "Do you think I don't know that?" Owen set the plant down. Lauren wiped her wet hand on her jeans. "I want to extend the cottage parking. 2 more spaces and a deck. The contractor says the easiest place is along the wagon path." "No, I know." He waited. "I canceled it this morning," she said, "before I came up. The extra runoff would come toward your lower ditch, and I'd have to move the access. You could build on the other side. It costs more. Yes, I'm going to wait. Fix the orchard first." The choice did not erase the kitchen table or the field beside Travis's skid steer. It changed what might happen next. Owen handed her an empty pot. "I need these rootstocks moved out of the sun." Lauren took it. She spent the afternoon helping him, then came back the next morning. Together they identified which orchard trees could be saved. Owen installed a small gravity-fed tank below the spring, filled only after the trough overflowed. Lauren paid for the pipe and agreed to maintain the orchard swale before receiving water. "This is a lot of conditions for a brother favor," she said. "It's not a favor." "Good." By May, new leaves appeared below the dead limbs of the oldest apple trees. Travis waited until June to come up. He wore a clean polo shirt and stepped around every patch of mud. The storage pad below had remained gravel. Metal framing rusted beneath a tarp. "I need an estimate," he said. "For what?" "Erosion control along the entrance." "Ask your contractor. He wants $16,000 and a retaining wall." "Do you need a retaining wall?" Apparently, everybody becomes a geologist after sending an invoice. Owen continued sorting pots. Travis looked toward the flowing basin. "So, it actually works." "It works." "Wade said you're supplying the orchard." "I'm supplying a tank when there's overflow. Could run a line down to the units." "No, I'd pay." "No." Travis shoved his hands into his pockets. "You don't even know what I was offering. Water isn't the problem at your site. Where water goes is. That's why I'm here." Owen studied him. "I'll look. My rate is $35 an hour, including the walk." "Family rate?" "That is the family rate." Travis laughed despite himself. "Fine." The entrance was worse than it appeared from uphill. Water had carved beneath the new culvert's outlet and loosened the edge of the gravel pad. Travis's contractor wanted a wall because a wall could be priced and built quickly. Owen proposed widening the outlet, stepping the channel with stone, and planting the slope. "It'll take longer," he said. "Everything you suggest takes longer. Then pay for the wall." Travis kicked a loose rock into the ditch. "How long?" 2 months for the plants to establish. Longer before you trust them. I wanted units open last fall. You wanted the grade done before a storm, too." Travis looked across the road. "You enjoy this." "No, you should." "I was an ass." Owen said nothing. Travis rubbed his beard. "I mocked the parcel because it looked like you got nothing. Then you started making something work, and it made the rest of us look like we were just standing on what Grandma handed us. That wasn't why I did it. I know. That was worse. It was not a complete apology. It was the first one Travis had built without humor doing the load-bearing work. Owen gave him the estimate. Travis paid half up front. They spent July repairing the entrance. Travis worked on weekends to reduce the labor cost. He complained about every stone and carried all of them. Wade watched from the farmhouse. His well had grown cloudy again during summer storms. The hayfield drainage held because Owen's upper channels no longer sent silt across it, but Wade never acknowledged the connection. He did not ask for water. He did not come to the spring house. At family meals, which happened irregularly and usually because Lauren organized them, he discussed fuel prices, roof repairs, and the declining morality of people who left grocery carts loose in parking lots. Owen waited. By August, Lauren's orchard tank had stayed full through 3 dry weeks. Travis's planted channel held during a hard rain. Owen's nursery sold out of its first small batch of shade plants. Wade's kitchen faucet began spitting cloudy water. Lauren told Owen. Travis told Owen. Even June mentioned it. "He knows where I am," Owen said each time. One evening, Owen was closing the spring house gate Frank had built from cedar when he heard Wade behind him. "I need water," Wade said. Owen turned. Wade stood on the path with 2 empty plastic jugs, one in each hand. The request was so small and ordinary that Owen almost took them. Instead, he said, "For tonight, for the house. You can fill those, and a line later." Owen rested one hand on the cedar gate. A line means joining the system. It's a spring, not a union. It's maintenance. Swales, culverts, channels, storm checks. Everybody contributes money or labor. I gave you roof panels. That was after a tree came through where I slept. Wade's jaw shifted. I helped repair the roof. You did. And Travis's culvert is fixed. Travis fixed it. I made him. No, the storm did. Wade set the jugs down. What do you want from me? The truth would be a start. About what? Owen looked at the water passing through stone, laid by men whose arguments had outlived one of them. About the logging, he said. About Dad. About why you buried the spring and then acted like it died on its own. Wade's face closed exactly as Owen knew it would. I came for water, he said. I know. Wade picked up the empty jugs. He walked back down the hill without filling them. The spring continued running behind Owen. It had returned before Wade could. Owen did not follow Wade. He filled one of the abandoned jugs and left it beside the wagon path gate. In the morning, it was gone. The empty jug returned 2 days later, rinsed and placed in the same spot. Nothing else passed between them. Lauren came to inspect the orchard tank and found Owen setting stones along the nursery beds. You could have given him the water, she said. I did. You know what I mean. He asked for a permanent line. And you asked for a confession. I asked him to stop pretending the spring failed by itself. Lauren tested the tank valve. Clear water ran over her fingers. Wade can't hold a silence longer than you can. Then his well better recover. You want me to talk to him? Owen placed another stone. No. That surprised her. I'm done sending people into rooms for me, he said. Lauren shut the valve. That's probably healthy. Annoying, but healthy. The following Saturday, Wade appeared on the wagon path, carrying a length of black iron against his shoulder. Owen recognized it only when Wade laid it beside the spring house. The old gate was narrow and arched at the top, its bars webbed with rust. One hinge remained attached. A bent metal plate in the center held the faded outline of the word Mercer. Found it in the back of the barn, Wade said. You knew it was there. I knew we kept it. I didn't know where. Owen opened Frank's cedar gate. This one works. I can see that. Wade ran a thumb across the iron plate. Rust flaked beneath it. Your grandfather hung this when he rebuilt the spring house, he said. Daniel and I painted it green one summer. Got more paint on each other than the gate. Owen waited. Wade looked into the clear basin. I pushed for the logging. The water passed through the overflow notch. A gnat circled above it, catching light. Your father needed money, Wade continued. So did the farm. That part was true. But I wanted to clear the upper slope afterward. Thought we could expand the hayfield and sell a second cut later. Daniel said it was too steep. You cut it anyway. We both did. Because he needed the money. Because I told him I knew the hill. Wade sat on the spring house wall, then stood again as if the stone had rejected him. The first rain clouded the spring, he said. Daniel blamed the skid trail. I said the collection bed was already failing. We dug without knowing which of us was right. Your grandmother told us to bring Frank and Sylvia up. We didn't want witnesses to being wrong. That sounds familiar. Yes. The word came without defense. Wade looked uphill toward the place where Owen's trench had collapsed. After Daniel cut his leg, I filled everything, he said. Partly because the bank was unstable. Partly because I wanted the argument buried before he came back. Then he died the next year, and every time your mother or Ruth mentioned the spring, I said it had run dry. You let me think Dad quit. He did quit. You said he came back alone. He came back because I wouldn't help. There's a difference. Owen's throat tightened. Why didn't Grandma fix it? She tried. She cleared the lower run, bought pipe, kept notes. By then the well was in, your grandfather was gone, and the rest of us had discovered how useful it was to call the spring unnecessary. Wade rubbed both hands over his face. Ruth left you this parcel because she thought you'd care for it, he said. No. Wade lowered his hands. She left it because she thought I might, Owen said. That isn't the same. All right, and she knew that might be unfair. Wade nodded slowly. It was. Owen looked at the old iron gate. You came up here to tell me that? I came to ask what it takes to put this back. It needs sandblasting. I mean me. The answer sat between them without decoration. Owen could have made Wade wait. Part of him wanted an apology shaped exactly like the injury, with every year named and every absence accounted for. Wade would never be able to build that sentence. Owen was no longer willing to build it for him. You joined the maintenance agreement, he said. Same as Lauren and Travis. What agreement? The one we're writing. Cost based on use. Labor credited when it's actual labor, not supervision. Storm checks assigned in advance. Nobody grades, fills, or changes a channel without telling everybody downstream. You made a homeowners association. Travis already used that joke. Then I withdraw it. The farmhouse line fills a holding tank after the trough and orchard tank. During low flow, the house gets less. The spring doesn't owe us what the well used to provide. Wade looked into the basin. And the gate? We clean it together. If the metal's sound, we hang it. Wade picked up the iron gate. Where do you want to work? Outside the shed. Cabin? Not until there's plumbing. Owen stared at him. Wade's expression remained solemn for 3 seconds before breaking. It was the first joke he had made, without using someone else as the wound. They spent 2 weekends cleaning the iron. Travis lent them a wire wheel. Lauren brought primer and purchased green paint after Wade rejected 3 shades as historically inaccurate. You buried it for 15 years, Lauren told him. You have lost color privileges. That is not Springhouse green. Springhouse green is whatever was on sale. Marisol sat on an overturned bucket and labeled each paint sample with names of her own. Regretful moss, inherited resentment, and Wade's final opinion. They chose the middle shade. The hinge plate required new stone anchors. Wade wanted to set them immediately. Owen made him wait until Frank checked the wall. Actual labor, not supervision, Wade muttered. Agreement hasn't even been signed, Owen said. I'm practicing resentment. When the gate finally swung into place, its lower edge cleared the stone by 1/2 inch. Wade opened it, closed it, then opened it again. It sags. It's 90 years old. So am I, according to everyone here. You're 58, Lauren said. Emotionally, this summer has aged me. Travis leaned against the wall. The goat joke would work now. Nobody encouraged him. Growth is lonely, he said. The maintenance agreement filled 4 pages, most of them written at Ruth's kitchen table. Owen refused to sit at the head. Wade did not take the chair either. Lauren insisted on a separate account for materials. Travis wanted labor rates defined before Wade could claim 6 hours for thinking beside a shovel. Wade required a rule against changing a ditch based solely on June Bell remembering water during the Roosevelt administration. June added a handwritten clause stating that Wade Mercer could be overruled by gravity without a vote. They kept it. The agreement did not make them equal or easy. It gave their conflicts somewhere to go besides memory. The farmhouse holding tank filled slowly during September. Wade continued using the well for washing and the spring line for cooking until the cloudiness cleared. He took the Tuesday storm check and never missed it. Lauren pruned the orchard with Owen, rather than hiring someone to make it look productive from the cottage windows. The oldest apple tree survived. Its fruit was small and marked, but sweet. Travis postponed the last 2 storage buildings. The first 4 opened after the planted channel established. When a storm washed mulch from one section, He called Owen before attempting a repair. "What do you think?" Travis asked. "I think you're standing in the outlet." Travis stepped aside without arguing. Owen's nursery remained small enough that every sale mattered. He continued 4 nights at Brewer's and did drainage work on the other days. Some jobs went well. At one hillside property, he misjudged the soil and rebuilt a channel at his own expense. The mistake cost most of that month's nursery income. He told clients about it when they asked how long he had been doing the work. "Long enough to know water keeps receipts," he said. Marisol stayed in Nashville 3 nights a week and at the cabin often enough that 2 coffee mugs lived beside Owen's stove. She did not give up the promotion. Owen stopped treating each departure as a rehearsal for abandonment. In October, she carried a plumbing catalog into the shed and placed it on his cot. "What's this?" "A cabin application. I thought Beauty survived worse. Beauty wants a shower." He opened the catalog. "You planning to stay?" "I'm planning hot water. Do not make it frightening." He kissed her before he could ask the wrong question. The family supper happened on the first cool evening in November. There was no holiday and no formal invitation. Lauren had too many apples. Travis had bought steaks after losing a bet with Wade about the new culvert. Marisol brought potatoes from St. Martha. June brought butter she finally considered adequate. They set 2 folding tables beside the spring house. Frank and Sylvia came. Nita arrived straight from Brewer's and examined the flowing basin before saying, "That pump would have hated this too." Cal declined but sent a bag of charcoal and a note instructing Owen to arrive at work sober. Wade grilled. Lauren cut apples. Travis carried chairs from the farmhouse, including Ruth's old metal lawn chair with the woven seat faded nearly white. He set it at the end of the table, then noticed what he had done. "I can take that back," he said. "No," Owen told him. "Leave it. Nobody sat there." The chair did not become Ruth. It did not prove she had divided the land wisely, or excuse the years they had left her to carry what others ignored. It simply held the space where she would have corrected Wade's fire, criticized Lauren's knife, and slipped Travis the first steak before it rested. For once, nobody tried to fill that space with an explanation. After supper, Wade carried plates downhill. Travis and Lauren argued cheerfully about who had signed up for the next storm check. June sat beside the spring with her eyes closed, listening. Owen opened the iron gate for Marisol. Water moved beneath them through the old stone run, into the basin, out toward the trough, the orchard, and the farmhouse tank. Each place received something. Each owed something back. At 22, Owen had been given the parcel everyone considered worst because it was steep, damaged, and demanded work before it offered comfort. It had not made him rich. It had given him cold mornings, scarred hands, a patched cabin, honest work, and a place his family could enter only after learning to knock. Marisol slipped her hand into his. Behind them, Lauren called, "Are you two coming?" Owen looked at the light from the tables, at Ruth's empty chair, and at Wade returning uphill because he had forgotten the serving spoon. "Yeah," Owen said. He closed the springhouse gate gently and went back with her.